Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and today I am joined by regular co-host, Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello, Ben, and indeed, hello, everybody. Just the two of us this week.
Yeah, just the two of us. A nice, a cozy little recording, yeah?
Little cozy cast. We can make it if we try. I'm sure it'll be a lovely time.
A
Not that
cozy
we,
cast,
yeah,
exactly.
not that we
Maybe
don't like having guests. It's lovely, love it. But you get to. It's
organize it.
nice to be able to miss people, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Then it makes those guests, when they do arrive, extra special. Maybe we just couldn't get a guest because of the topic of today's film, which some people find, well, some people are arachnophobic, it would seem.
Yeah, it is. And to be fair, not just guests declining. Then usually my wife will watch most of the films we watch for the show together with me. We'll sit and watch them whenever I get around to watching them. And I said, "Oh, I've got arachnophobia." Absolutely not. Downstairs. You don't
Hell
mind.
no.
Watch that down there.
See, I wouldn't call myself particularly arachnophobic. I'm not a huge fan of spiders. I haven't got posters of them on my walls. But this one it does make my skin crawl. I'm very itchy when I'm watching it. I'm like, oh.
They're proper creepy crawly spiders, and they do a lot with real spiders in this one as well. I mean, we'll get into it.
The spiders are great actors, is what you're saying.
They're
They're
good
great.
acting spiders. Do you have, Ben, speaking of real life arachnophobia, which is the film we're talking about today, and when you didn't read the title and went in blind? Um, if have you got in your mind a size of spider where you convert from I will pick this up with my hands to put it out of the
Ooh,
house to I need
I
a
will.
glass?
I will only pick up the ones with long, spindly legs. I will only
Also,
pick those up.
it's more of a girth situation for you, then, is it?
It's always more of a girth situation. I think anything where the leg is like very, very visible, having a color scheme of its own,
Yeah.
rather than a little translucent, thin, little wiry legs. That's when because then if I pick it up, I just imagine it in my hand.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't like a fat-bodied spider to pick up. No, no, no.
no.
I think my size limit for spiders might be if they're of a size that I, as a fully grown human, when I'm looking at it, if I can perceive where its eyes are,
Oh
like
yeah.
if it's that big, I'm like nah, I'm getting a glass. I'm
Yeah.
getting it using the trusty old glass method to get you out of the house.
Yeah, I think if I got gloves on now, I think all bets are off because I recently like demolished a shed in my garden and there were loads of spiders there. But because I had like gardening or not even gardening gloves, just like thick, like heavy duty gloves, I was knocking them down. I was just pushing things out of the way. I was boxing them. I wasn't boxing them, but no fear, zero fear. But yeah, the skin on hand is pretty horrific, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, making
Yeah.
sure that they didn't like get into your American football helmet or your slippers or into your lampshade while you were there.
Yeah, or your sleeping bag or anything like
Sleeping
that.
bag
Oh yeah, it does make you
underneath
think,
your
doesn't it?
book of
Especially,
near your book of fairy stories in your shower, all the places they'll get you in this film.
they'll get you everywhere in the wine cellar.
Yeah,
That's they like that place the most. Yeah, pretty horrific, pretty terrifying. I mean, spiders do get a bad rap, don't they? And old Julian Sands' character behind you, Dr. James Atherton, does kind of explain that. He's like, spiders, they eat all these bugs. We'd be overrun if we didn't have any spiders. There'd be bugs everywhere. Your floor, bugs.
yeah. You'd be absolutely chockers. You open the drawer, it's on your desk, full of bugs. If it weren't for spiders,
Full of bugs.
open
They
your
run all up
fridge,
your arm, straight in your
bugs.
mouth.
Yeah,
Mm,
everywhere you look,
yeah.
bugs. Yeah, I appreciate that spiders
We'd
are.
be eating bugs. I think we'd be eating bugs because there's so many of them. Everything would be made from bugs. Like
Yeah, your house,
everything's just
Lego.
yeah, your house. Lego, your house. This mug I'm drinking from right now, just made of bugs.
Yeah,
Um,
if it wasn't for spiders, I'm quite comfortable from the teachings of Dr. James Atherton that if it wasn't for spiders, you'd wake up one morning, you'd yawn, you'd stretch, you'd turn round to your partner, say good morning. Never guess what? There'd be bugs, mate. They're just it'd be
well,
like when
like from
Bugs it'd be like when Bugs Bunny makes like a sexy woman to trick Yosemite Sam out of dynamite and then blows him up, but
oh yeah,
except it'd be bugs just formed into the shape of a person.
we've all been there.
Yeah, so
As
you've got to be
somebody who
careful. So thank you, spiders, if you're listening.
as somebody who lived in other countries as well, like what is the spider population of Korea like, for example?
Remember having a different spider experience. Like there definitely were spiders, but I think it was the same.
Yeah,
But
not like
they're
a.
working hard over there, keeping the mosquitoes down because it's a country hot enough to get mozzie bites.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So it's not like a Australia scenario
No, it's
where
not like an Australia
obviously, where
scenario.
obviously they're the size of your head. That's
Yeah,
just standard, all right.
you just get into a taxi at the airport and there's one driving it. All right. Oh, sorry, Australia. Take a day.
Good day. Um, yeah, it's kind of terrifying. One thing that scares. I don't think it happens very. I don't think it's a real thing, but in films when spiders are all like,
I'll make like a hiss noise when they're coming at you.
yeah, it's horrible. I mean, I know there are hissing spiders, aren't there? But the thought of that, like the hissing spider or the spider that like hides under a rock, something like that,
Little
that
trapdoor
leaps out,
spider. Yeah.
little trapdoor spider leaps out and gets you. That's scary. Don't like that. Tarantulas in Resident Evil used to scare me a lot. When you kill them, all the little spiders come out. That's pretty terrifying. But luckily tarantulas of that size don't actually exist.
Yeah. We just have like comparatively the spiders we were just freaking out. Sorry if you live in a country where spiders are actually big. The biggest spider we get here will be nothing compared to what you face.
Yeah.
But you have to get a
It's
glass and a sturdy bit of card.
I always think that like the UK is a weird sort of anomaly, isn't it? Where like the spiders aren't big, the weather is not like mad. There are no earthquakes or hurricanes or anything like that.
It's one type
It's
of
just
snake which isn't poisonous enough to actually make you anything more than I feel a bit poorly, and they're super,
yeah.
super rare.
There's not really any scary animals out and about in the wild. I know there are. Well, what are there? What's the scariest animal?
Scariest
That
animal in the UK,
a,
tell you what I
a
think
bad
it probably has
a
been.
wolf?
I ain't got no
No,
wolves. It's them
no.
bloody type of dog, those ones they got down Westminster. That's what I'm talking about. They're the scariest animals we got over here. Bunch of
I
pigs.
was I was thinking a corgi. What are you on about? They're lovely. They got big juicy bums. Yeah. So basically, yeah. If you don't live in the UK, it is a weird like anomaly where everything's kind of. I mean, it is a bit shit, but things are like kind of safe. There's no extreme weather, no extreme insects, no
Even like
extreme.
badgers, right? Like badgers are probably the biggest like land predator that wouldn't get you as a person, but for any American listeners, the badgers that you have are not like the badgers we have here. The badgers here would like invite you round to the house for tea and biscuits.
you've you've watched too much Wind in the Willows.
Yeah, might be a bit gruff, bit grumpy, but they're not going to be dangerous.
Tuberculosis? That thing.
I did
Brian
see
May
a
loves the
badger
Badgers.
once. I did. I was when we lived in Swindon. I stepped out of the house, and some drunk men were because we lived down the road from a pub. Some guys were just standing there, and they heard like a clicking sound. This badger just went absolutely tearing it down the thing. His tongue was hanging out. He looked,
Wow.
and these guys like jumped out of his way. They were like,
Well, his tongue was hanging out like he was just loving life. He
yeah,
wasn't.
he was just sprinting down the road, having a
That's
mad one.
awesome. Having a mad one. He'd had a mad one.
Yeah,
Um. Okay. Before we talk about all wildlife, UK-based wildlife, let's talk about some horror news. Just before we started recording this episode, the trailer. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I will direct you to it, listeners. The Nun 2 trailer has just dropped. Valak the demonic nun, guess what they've said, is back in the habit this September.
no, they haven't said that in the actual copy.
No. Well, in the copy on bloodydisgusting.com,
Oh, okay.
other horror news websites are available, but that is the one that I like to look at the most. So Valak returns in the Nun 2 from director Michael Chavez. So he directed Curse of La Llorona, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. So clearly they're taking it seriously. This is one of the main installments of the Conjuring universe. Because they've got a director who's even done a mainline installment, which is pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So the first synopsis: 1956, France. A priest is murdered, and evil is spreading. The sister to the worldwide smash hit The Nun follows Sister Irene. It said sequel. Sorry, I read the wrong line.
The sister.
Sister Irene, as she once again comes face to face with the demonic force Valak, the demon nun. How did the Valak, the demon nun, come to be? Just was.
Always was, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember I have seen the original, but it scared up. This is their words. A whopping 365 million at the worldwide box office. I think it just goes to show that a trailer with jump scares pretty much just does the world of good. It attracts a certain type. I think films like this attract not necessarily what I would call horror fans. I think they're kind of just junkies for this kind
A
of
good
movie
a
with.
good mainstream audience though. Like it's been said
Mm,
before, like you won't you'll never top the box office charts with things that are, very good films. Like, I'd say some of the scariest mainstream released horror cinema, things like your Midsummers and so on, that attract a
mm.
more horror centric audience will never get the box office return than you get something like this, which has got accessibility for lots of people, like your Smiles, like your Halloweens, like your. So
Yeah,
I reckon it'll do well. I'm not
I'm
overly
sure it
surprised.
will. I'm not. No, I mean, I don't. I watched. I didn't watch it in cinemas. The Nun, but I did watch it 2021 apparently. So my review just says a non-event. I think it was literally like one of these films where I'm like, because I think the setup, the location, like a monastery or wherever it is, like France in the 50s or the 40s, whenever the first one was set. Um, and the antagonist, the nun, is scary looking.
Yeah.
Like it should be like the perfect horror film, but it just felt like it was just incredibly underwhelming. So, I mean, I will watch the Nun 2 just because I like to I like to, I like to be a completionist when it comes to these things. I still need to watch some of the Insidious movies I haven't seen before that one comes out in the Red Door, which is like this week, next week, soon. It's soon.
Yeah, it's the end of this month.
Is it the end of this month?
Oh no,
Okay.
sorry,
Well,
that's talk to me. It's the end of the month. It's very
oh
soon.
yeah.
So this
So
week
it's very
maybe.
soon. So I don't think we're gonna do a mainline episode, and that is because we've only covered the original. We haven't covered 2, 3, or 4. What was that one called? The missing
The
key, the
last,
last
the
key.
final key.
Something like that. So I think we're gonna do like a bite-sized episode on it. I guess whichever one of us decides to go and see it at the cinema, um, we'll do a little bite-sized episode. So we will still cover that. But yeah, I'm sure we'll cover the Nun. So it's coming out in September, which is not that long away. So there we go. There's that one. I will go and watch that trailer because I don't really care about spoilers when it comes to that. And plus, if it's a mainstream horror movie, and I go to the cinema a lot, I'm gonna see it in the cinema a lot.
Yeah.
Like, but come the end, I think I'd seen the trailer for what Smile probably about 100 times.
Yeah,
I had to just
that
look
one
away.
got heavily trailered, right? So yeah, you'll probably have seen. You're not going to be able to escape the Nun.
You're not gonna be able to escape, quite
Valak for
literally.
days.
Valak for days. Okay, I've got another trailer for a movie called Brightwood, which sees a married couple trapped in a vicious time loop. Jen and Dan's marriage is on the rocks when Jen seriously thinking about ending it for good. But when the couple go on a jog around a local pond in an attempt to hash things out, must be a big pond, they find themselves running in circles as the exit trail vanishes and they repeatedly return to the same spot. Apparently, there's a silent hooded killer appears and tracking them down. So yeah, time crimes vibes, maybe triangle vibes, sort of stuff like that, with a time loop and some other weird stuff going on. But it's been described as being inspired by things like Twilight Zone and Blair Witch Project. So it's based on a short film called The Pond, and this trailer's out now and it's going to be out on demand August the 22nd.
Sounds great. I'm
So
into that.
we've got a big old mainstream release. There's a smaller one for you as well.
Oh,
Um,
very nice.
but and a nice little segue, just thin on the ground for a lot of horror news this week. But a nice segue, and I guess horror adjacent, would be that James Wan's Blumhouse movie. Sorry, not James Wan. Jason Blum from Blumhouse himself, Mr. Blumhouse, updates on the Spawn movie. So apparently it's coming out in 2025.
Okay.
Spawn creator Todd McFarlane is on board in some sense. I don't know if we got a director, but Jamie Foxx is still attached to star as a title character. So if you're not familiar with it, obviously Spawn is the sort of like, how would you describe him?
He's like a CIA assassin that gets betrayed and goes to hell, and the
Yeah,
devil, or a
makes
form of the devil
makes a
called
devil.
Malbolgia, says, "Do you want to run my army and be a spawn?" He says, "All right, I will.
I will.
If you let me come back and see my wife." sort of gets a bit betrayed and says, "Ha, I'll let you see your wife," but only after she's forgotten all about it and has got married to someone else. Sucked
Betrayed
in.
twice. Oh,
Um,
look. So it's Michael J. White in the original, isn't it? And
yeah,
John Leguizamo was that. What's that
John
guy called?
Leguizamo as the violator, the clown.
What did I say? Leguizamo.
Leguizamo.
John bloody Leguizamo. He's Sid from Ice Age. Um,
um,
all I remember of it, because I did watch it quite a bit in the 90s, and I think I had it on video, is the most CGI'd cape or
it's a
suit that
very
you'll ever.
shiny CGI cape. Spawn could be an excellent movie, and we'll go and see it for good or ill.
Oh yeah, definitely. And if Jamie Foxx ends up, that's some serious acting chops. No disrespect to Michael J. White, but his career since, well, his career in full is usually some dodgy films and some straight to DVD stuff. So someone like Jamie Foxx could probably add a bit more weight to the character.
Spawn could be
Um,
good. I'd like to see if how far into the horror elements. It's got some
yeah,
police procedural stuff and some like serial killer hunting and stuff like that in the Spawn comics early doors, as well as some really truly weird stuff that goes on. But
yeah.
what I'd want to see is I'd want to see them lean into a horror angle of it. I could do without another Morbius that didn't
Ah,
didn't pick up enough on the horror for me. Morbius could have
well,
been good. I maintain it could have been good.
now you've mentioned Morbius, we're gonna have to very, very briefly mention Craven the Hunter as well, even though it's not horror at all. Um, what's going on?
Um,
What's going on?
got a
I
bit of
mean,
lion blood in him by the look of things, and he's got hunter powers.
I mean, here's the thing, right? I love the fact that characters that I've sort of grown up reading in comics and watching in cartoons are getting movies because it's cool. Because it's like 20 years ago, you'd be like, "What? A movie all about Craven the Hunter?" However, it seems like they're all taking the same sort of route, which is anti-hero, misunderstood anti-hero. Um, these are like Spider-Man's main foes. Now I know Michael Morbius, in a way, is tragic in his own right.
Should have put him in Blade instead.
For many reasons, should have put him in Blade, yeah. But Craven the Hunter, you know, he's a nasty bastard. He's killing Spider-Man's loved ones. He's
He's a bad
putting a
man.
black suit
Yeah,
on. He's a bad
yeah.
man. I don't want to
And
see. I
sorry, welcome to the niche comic references. But isn't his brother the chameleon?
Oh yeah, possibly.
And
Yeah.
he's got and
Wait.
he's got and he's got a brother in the trailer that's like a little weedy guy. He'd probably be good at doing disguises.
And also, Russell Crowe is in the trailer, and
Yeah,
Russell Crowe is already in the Marvel universe. I know it's the Sony Marvel universe, but he's already, what's his flavor? Zeus.
yeah.
It just
Oh
makes
well.
me, yeah. Who cares? But but
Yeah.
but but I think what I'm saying is, look, I know it's not a Sony one, but when we do find out more about Blade, it's not the same sort of thing. Well, Blade's not a bad guy as such, but still, it seems to be going down the same sort of route, which is misunderstood anti-hero. Has an origin story. Why does he become bad? Oh,
They'll
one
just
bad
be
day.
well. There'll be an end credit sequence where the guys, someone will turn up. What's his name? Michael Keaton will turn up and go, "Yeah, right, this Spider-Man fellow," and he goes, "All right, tell me more."
Oh, oh
The
yeah.
end.
Oh my god. Just absolute nuts. Okay. That's it for horror news. I guess we'll do a little bit of what we've been watching. A little bit longer since our last episode. It's been about a week and a half, so probably a few more things to cover. Andy, you said you got a lot to cover, so did
I
you want to
have
fly through
an
some stuff? I've
absolute
only got.
bonanza. I'm
Oh
not going to share
Jesus.
too much on some of these, but um, I've had a really good week for seeing some stuff that I some stuff I'd never heard of before, some stuff I was looking forward to seeing. I'm going to touch on everything in the briefest of ways. So after we did that film, we talked about the Barn Patch 2 and Witchboard last week. So I've done a bite-sized episode on Witchboard. We'll come to more of that in a minute. But I watched The Scary of 61st on Shudder. Very surreal, sort of dreamlike elements, but loads of real-time political commentary about the Jeffrey Epstein scandal and lots of other conspiracy theories around that as well. The subject of his death, the involvement of the British royal family and Prince Andrew. I had no idea what I was expecting from this film. it's really weird. There are elements of it towards the end, not entirely, but some of the character interactions and some of the madness that it degrades into. Think Possession. Um,
Oh, okay.
for some of the character moments as well. Just these characters absolutely losing it. Really, really interesting, really strange. I feel it would be polarizing. You'll either love it or hate it. Yeah, it was interesting. I watched Soft and Quiet, which is those people in like a rural community. They're like having a little sort of local women's association chat. Guess what? Turns out this isn't a spoiler. It's in the first 5 minutes. Turns out they're all Nazis, and they get worse, and it's incredibly uncomfortable. Again, horrific. An interesting watch. Your mileage may vary. I watched The Black Demon, which you've done a bite-sized about.
Yes.
Funny little shark. Could give you some visions, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, but it's a weird one. There's not much shark in it, is there?
No, not too much shark.
No, not
Just,
too much shark.
just a dad and corporate pressure.
A dad who, like, I don't know, bit of a dick.
Yeah, he's a bad
Like,
man.
yeah, he's a bad one. Why am I rooting for
He's
this
a bloody
guy?
bad dad. So yeah, bad dad, and the true villain is oil, not sharks.
Mm.
After that, though, Ben, some absolute belters for this week. So some strange ones, nothing there apart from maybe the Black Demon that I actively wouldn't recommend. Those of us were good, but some
Mm.
strong recommendations. The Signal, 2014 film by William Eubank. The actor you will most definitely recognize from it is Lawrence Fishburne. Some people they're following a signal by this hacker that's been taunting them, and something happens to them, and they end up in this like controlled government place where they're being interviewed by scientists. It's a really fun sci-fi story. Pretty tense. I wouldn't say it's horror necessarily, like horror adjacent sort of sci-fi. If you listen to popular short stories program, the other stories on your podcast app of choice, got a very other stories feel to it. I enjoyed it a lot. I watched Galaxy of Terror, which is a 1981 sci-fi horror movie where people go to a weird alien planet and then experience their worst fears manifested by this weird entity. Some hard sci-fi
Oh
in
no.
this. And Freddy Krueger's in it as well. Not as Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund is in it as a normal man on a space traveling mission. I watched 1987's Dolls, which was
Oh
on at
yeah.
the Forbidden Worlds Film Festival in Bristol that I missed. That's an all-timer for me. It's brilliant. It's great. I can't wait to watch it again. I've thrown it on the episode list. We'll say no more about it. It is a good horror hangout
Yeah. It's that
film.
I've always kind of thought we should cover that. So yeah, let's get that on the upcoming episodes.
It's really good. Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. I caught up, Ben. I don't need to know that you're suffering on your own. I watched Book of Shadows: Blair Witch 2, so I'm with you.
Oh yeah, I did see you say that. Yeah.
Um,
Is that the first time watch for you?
First time since I saw it at the cinema.
Oh yeah.
I went to the cinema back in the year 2000 and watched it. Um, you know
Wow.
what? I admit that it was a bad film, but I had some fun with it. Like I had
Yeah, there's some
some
fun to be had,
brilliant
definitely.
laughs at some of the performances, absolute belters.
Like the trip to the grocery store
The trip to
for for
the trip
Kim's
to the grocery
character.
store with Kim's character, and also speaking of Kim, who's also called Kim in real life.
I think they're all everyone in that film we
Yeah,
worked out is their character names is yeah. It's like
yeah.
Keith Chegwood in Extras when he's
Well, it
just gonna
looks
change your character name to Keith.
like her name is Kim Director. Her name should be Kim Actor.
It's
But
true.
yeah,
It's true.
no one has ever been more perfectly genetically designed to be a goth character in the year 2000 than Kim Director.
No,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
so that was that. I loved the new metal soundtrack and the
Yeah.
late 90s representation of what being in a mental health facility is like, just shaking
Yeah.
around real
Shaking
fast.
around like some sort of white froth coming out your mouth.
Yeah, just hammering yourself into walls. Um,
Ah.
After you mentioned it, and I've finally owned the fact that I was really far behind it, I've started a journey
Oh.
on Black Mirror. So I
Nice.
watched the first three, the original three. So series one, I watched the national anthem, 15 Million Merits with Daniel Kaluuya. Not with him, he
Oh
was in it.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he wasn't there on your
and
sofa.
the entire history of you with that recall thing, and
Oh God.
Jodie Whittaker's in it. I tell you what,
Both
especially
the
15
best
Million
and the
Merits, I was
worst thing
so
ever.
sad by the end.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've finished season 6 now, and there is a particular episode in season 6, and I won't spoil anything. Horror chops, like a twist, and it goes in a very horror direction. And I liked it. I've seen a lot of people say they didn't like it and they didn't like the twist, but I was like, I'm in. I like it. It was an episode that needed something, and then it gave us something. So I was like, yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to carrying on through it because it's been really good, and it's absolutely astounding that I've not started them before this point in life.
Mm.
But on the home stretch, Ben, I told you it's been a busy week. I watched Witchboard 2 from 1993.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
really want to say much about this. I think we should put it out there. We're live on the air. Um, we should maybe do a double of both of them because whereas Witchboard 1 has some interesting ideas, but
Yeah.
maybe has a little bit slow pacing, I thought Witchboard 2 was really good. It's
Yeah. Well,
funny. It's funny. It's got some really creative and good kills. Probably best
mm.
poltergeist related kills I've ever seen in a movie.
Oh wow. Okay.
There's some absolutely crazy stuff that goes on in it. So I had a lot of fun with it. Then I watched former episode topic Lake Mungo, an interesting piece. You guys have recorded 2 hours on that. I don't need to say anything more.
Oh wow. Wait, have you
Um,
seen that before?
no, never.
Oh my God. So what did you think of the big, without detailing it, because a lot of people may not have seen it, what did you think of the big
I
scare?
I I loved it. I thought it was really like I wouldn't necessarily
Yeah.
say it was a scare. It gave you that
No.
same sort of disquieting feeling that I remember from
Yeah.
very particularly, when you watch crime reconstructions on Crime Watcher and you're a kid and it freeze frames on the burglar looking at you out of the thing, you think,
Yeah.
blimmin' hell, even though that's an actor pretending to be a burglar, I'm chilled to the bone. It was
I'm chilled to the bone.
it
It was
was
chilling,
it
yeah.
was chilling more than it is
It was
scary.
chilling, but also I was like, wait, am I getting it right? Is that what's happened? And then
I
looking
love the
more into it,
reveal
yeah.
after the reveal after the reveal. I mean, again, no spoilers. We listened to the episode for that, but the bit with the neighbors I did not see coming. It's like blooming hell.
Oh right. Oh God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, we won't go
um,
into
there
that
was
anymore.
that. We're almost there, Ben. Sorry, everyone who we put time codes in this, but um, Saint Maud. I finally got around to watching that after I
Oh
wanted
yeah,
to watch it.
nice.
Missed it all the way through lockdown and everything like that. I enjoyed it. Some real visceral like moments, particularly towards the end. Um, and yeah, it's a really, really
Mhm.
good, strong, character-driven standalone piece with a lot to unpick about what's actually going on with the characters. It
Yeah.
shows you more than it tells you, and there's a lot of depth you can pull out of that. But what I've
Mhm.
learned from my reaction to that versus films like Witchboard and the next film I watched, which was Frankenhooker, is that I'm deeply a silly person, and what I want is ridiculous, over the top
Oh,
horror because
I love Frankenhooker.
Frankenhooker
I
was
think
I've never seen
Frankenhooker's
it.
my favorite. Is my favorite of the three, like Basket Case. What's his name? The director.
Oh,
Putting you on the spot there. I'm very sorry, but yeah. So my
Frank
favorite.
and Helen Lotter is Frank Helen
Yeah,
Lotter
yeah.
is the yeah.
Frank Henenlotter. So obviously the director of Basket Case and Brain Damage as well.
Yeah.
But I genuinely think out of all those three, like sort of main sort of installments of those sort of franchises, my favorite,
Yeah.
Frankenhooker. I think just loved it.
Yeah. We've never done a Frankenhooker episode, right? You talked about it with Alice when you did Basket Case.
I think so. Yeah.
Tell you what, Ben, this has been a week for stuff that I want on
Yeah.
on the list. Frankenhooker was so good.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, I
great.
really, really enjoyed it.
Mm.
But yeah, last thing. Some of you may remember that in the halcyon days of 2020, there was a short-lived entertainment platform called Quibi, which was designed for mobile content, perfect for you to absorb on your commutes. Now, for reasons unbeknown to many people, for some reason in 2020 and the surrounding time, things that were designed to be absorbed on commutes didn't take off in the same way that they expected it to. And Quibi had a load of original content, which just learning about now, that disappeared. Um, one of them was a, a, a series called 50 States of Scared. And it was it's an original horror series. So episodes are presented in sort of 10-minute-ish chunks, 2 or 3 episodes per story. So, 20, 30-minute little short horror stories. The first one of which, The Golden Arm, is based on a traditional story passed down orally, most famously told by Mark Twain, but made into film by Sam Raimi. So a Sam Raimi directed horror show about like a vain lady who loses an arm in an accident and almost bankrupts her family, getting a golden arm grafted on. And when she passes away, she asks her husband at her bedside, on her deathbed, then, that he will bury her with her golden arm. And he does. He keeps that promise. But then the recession hits and he's fallen on hard times. So what does he have to bloody do? Go and get that golden arm back. It's really good. It's really, really good. I've watched the first 4 of the season now, and we've had 4, all of them really, really compelling shorts, really good actors that you'd recognize in them. A lot of it is available on YouTube at the moment. I would love to see more people seek this out because it's really, really good. And actually, like, I think it's a really interesting format that you had them in these little 10-minute snippets. Obviously, you can watch them all together now, but it's something that's really sad that it kind of sunk without a trace.
Yeah,
because this platform didn't go well and has disappeared.
I've never even heard of it.
Quibi. Oh, it's really good. Really, really loved it. I'm going to blitz through the rest of this series.
Yeah, sounds good. Was that everything?
Yeah, that was a bonanza. Sorry, everyone who's not here for what we've been watching. Get your watch lists out if you are here, because I would honestly, with the exception of The Black Demon, that you could maybe skip or wait until it's just on TV. Watch any of those. There is something for everyone, but especially Dolls, Frankenhooker, and Witchboard 2, and 50 States of Scared.
I've only got a couple of things. I'll blitz through those as well. So obviously, last week when we spoke about The Entity with Leanne, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go and check that out, and I definitely kind of remember some of it. So I think I've maybe seen some bits of it. But the fact that it's like based on a true story is kind of mad. Like, obviously it's been dramatized for movies, but I mean, it is harrowing and difficult to watch because like it's a story of where the assailant, somebody who's like assaulting a woman over and over, is like this unseen, like unbelievably strong, like ghostly force. But like the experts like are really like gaslighting the victim throughout. So essentially it's like 2 antagonists in this film. A sort of rapey poltergeist and people saying, nah, you've imagined it. You sure it wasn't your son who came in and did it to you? Bloody naysayers. And you know what? There's a bit of a mad sort of final act. But apart from that, like, it is genuinely like harrowing and quite creepy as well. So yeah, I recommend that. Definitely. It stars Barbara Hershey, who you will recognize as the mother of Patrick Wilson's character in the Insidious franchise.
Okay. Little connection then.
I think she's the mum in Black Swan as well, isn't she? Yeah. So yeah, a little connection there. I also watched a Shudder original called Brooklyn 45, which is directed by Ted Gyokan. Sorry, Ted Gyokan. I'm very sorry for that. Have I seen one of his movies before? No. So he directed a movie called We Are Still Here and another one called Mohawk in 2017. This is set in 1945 after the war has been won. Loads of like veterans with PTSD. Loads of them got bloody xenophobia and they're scared of everyone. What's that? You got an accent? Terrifying. It's a spooky like single location film. It feels like theater. sure, because it's like a single location, it feels more like theater. But like I don't know, I just felt like I was watching sort of a show. Um, it's good. There's some. Oh, it is spooky, but it's not like straight up horror. It's more like a sort of character study of all these different characters. Gets a bit hokey in places, when characters are talking and you're just like, all right,
Putting the
wind it.
left leg in, the left leg
Yeah,
out.
yeah. They're just like going on and on and on, and I'm like, show us some stuff. So it's very dialogue heavy, but I still recommend it. It's still like a very unique sort of film. And apart from that, nothing else horror, because it's been a bit of an Indiana Jones week, because I saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny in cinemas, and then I went back and watched the original trilogy. I haven't got around to the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull yet. But I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, and you know what? There are some horror elements in these films. Raiders of the Lost Ark in particular, because I used to be terrified of the Ark of the Covenant being opened and like people's faces melting. With some great practical effects. That was super spooky. And you know what? There is something terrifying about going into a scary temple. And I think that's why
Going into a Temple of Doom where a man called Kalimar will eat your heart out.
eat your heart out. Literally put his bloody hand in your chest.
Really Kano, yeah.
It's why I've always loved sort of like Lara Croft and Tomb Raider stuff and Uncharted and that, like these sort of jet setting, country hopping adventures. I just find there's something really, really
Love
fun
any
about
film
them.
where there's a map that you can like
Oh
show
yeah,
them traveling across.
as soon as the map turns up, I'm like, hell yeah. But yeah, obviously the original trilogy, Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think is a perfect adventure film. Last Crusade is probably my second favorite out of the three, just because I like the dynamic between Harrison Ford and Sean Connery. Temple of Doom is all right, short round. Is it? Did you know Temple of Doom is like a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yeah, it's set before.
What have I been doing in my life where I didn't even notice that?
Probably
Never
watching it
paid.
as a child and not
Yeah,
being like, oh, I'll make a note of
yeah.
this detail.
And you know what? The Dial of Destiny is, I've seen it getting a bit of a bad rap. Mads Mikkelsen, great, complex, interesting villain. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I've never really seen her in anything. I've heard her voice in like Star Wars stuff. I think she was a voice of a robot in Han Solo. I've never watched Fleabag. So in a way, I was a bit like, oh, bloody hell, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Really? Is that the best? Is that the best we could get? You know what? I think she's really charming in it.
If you ever
And
watch
in a way,
her like the Fleabag one woman show where it's pretty much the condensed program where it's just her doing it.
yeah.
Bearing in mind that she wrote it, and I saw a recording of her like live broadcast where she's on stage doing it. As someone who I don't really act, but I write, you think, oh, fucking hell, why do you bother? Because it's so good,
Oh, right. One of
really,
those.
really good. Yeah, like she's really talented. She's working on loads of different. She's doing Tomb Raider now.
Yeah, exactly. Doing Tomb Raider. So it's strange because I think of it, you wouldn't think she had like any action chops, but you know what? She's like an unconventional sort of action star in this. She does some like cool stuff. And it's one of those things. There's like a section of the film where like Harrison Ford's de-aged and it looks a bit dodgy, but I think that you can't get better than what is shown on screen in this. And the movie's climax overall is like a bit, I mean, I liked it. It was like, whoa, this is really gone somewhere mad. But I think I had fun with it overall. I think it's just hearing a John Williams score, an original John Williams score as well. Like he's done the whole score. It's not like just his themes. Is great. And James Mangold, who directed it, he's obviously a great director. And I just think it's got like a sort of back to basics, down to earthness to it that perhaps if Steven Spielberg directed it, it wouldn't have had that. But there's something.
I will go and see it. I'm looking forward to going to see Indy. I see the same. Like I've seen the people that have maybe said, "Oh, it wasn't the same." But the lesson I've taken away recently is that you got to think of these things on their own merits. You can't necessarily recapture the feeling you had if you loved it in, the 1980s. Reminds me of now. It's a lesson I've taken away forever, Ben. I've occasionally been watching old Twilight Zones and stuff like that as well. There is from the first series, The Twilight Zone. I watched it before last week's episode. But it was called, I think it's called Walking Distance or something like that. And it's about a man who is a salesman who has a busy life who stops at a garage for an oil change near the town he grew up in. And he wanders back to town and then finds himself in the most memorable summer of his childhood, and he sees himself as a young boy, and he sees his
Oh wow, okay.
parents, and he tries to go and talk to people, and he terrifies them, and all of these things happen. But then, eventually, after some events have unfolded, he's kind of sitting there lamenting it on a merry-go-round, and his dad comes up to him and he says, "Oh, when you were at our house and we argued earlier, you dropped your wallet, and I've looked in there, and I can see
Mm.
you are somehow my son, and you've grown up, and this is what you've become a fine man and all this stuff." But then he says, like, you can't stay here, you have to go. This isn't your
Mm.
summer. This is the younger version of you summer. This is the time for someone else. This isn't the time for you to come back and have this feeling that you had then. This
Yeah,
is somebody else's time. And that's the lesson
yeah.
I'll put out to all those other folks that, like, you can
Mm.
like or dislike this one, but it hasn't ruined Indiana Jones. Those old things still exist,
No.
and you can't recapture. It's the same with new Star Wars, or to be fair, like what Marvel movies have been running for like 15 years now, whatever, in their current format, in like MCU stuff and what have you. And
Mhm.
you'll get people coming into it now, then the new stuff will come out and they go, "Oh, bloody hell, it's not like when it was like when I watched those first ones, like the Iron Man and what have you." Like it's going to be different, and time moves on, and don't try and recapture those things how they were then, because the past is a foreign country. Just move on and
Yeah,
let other people have their time in the sun. Watch the episode of The Twilight Zone. It's really good.
yeah. It sounds
Profoundly
good.
affected me.
I mean, it's better than Kingdom the Crystal Skull, Dial of Destiny, I would say. I think that there are definitely some bits in that where you're like, oh, this is a bit naff. Monkeys and stuff.
CGI apes.
CGI apes. Shia LaBeouf playing a character called Mutt, something
Yeah.
like
I guess,
that.
is that because they named him after the dog? Is that a
Maybe
gag?
I can't remember. But there we go. That is pretty much all I've been watching this week, apart from the film of the week. At the top of the show, we already talked a little bit about it, so we will mention it again. If you're in any way scared of eight-legged freaks, eight-legged spideys, or or maybe with less legs, there's still a spider. Even if you lost a leg, still count as a spider. You don't lose your identity in that way. I'm just rambling. However, the film of the week is Arachnophobia, which is a 1990 American horror comedy film directed by Frank Marshall. In his directorial debut, stars Jeff Daniels and John Goodman. The film follows a small California town that becomes invaded by an aggressive and dangerous spider species. In terms of ratings, it got 6.5 on IMDb, 93% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, 54% audience score, 3.2 on Letterboxd, and some choice reviews. Jacob Knight says, insanely silly hybrid which plays like Joe Dante remade Gremlins and Jaws, only with spiders. 3.5 stars. Misha Beatty says, honestly, I was more invested in Daniels' medical practice and wine cellar woes than the spiders. 3 stars. Kodiak says, creepy, crawly, high class B movie fun. 3.5 stars. And Archive, I don't know if that's the name of their thing or this review's just been archived. I don't know if it's a bad or a good thing, but every time that John Goodman's off screen, I'm like, where the hell's John Goodman? Is he okay? And they only focused on that for the whole movie. 2.5 stars. Yeah, so there we go. Weird this one, because if you look back and watch the trailer after so many years, the trailer is just straight up billed as like a comedy film. You watch it, it's got the sort of kooky, upbeat, fun music, like when John Goodman arrives in this film.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's like, what would you do if spiders ruined your like? It's proper like that, and there might be more than one trailer. There might be another trailer because obviously it is a PG-13 horror movie, so in a way it's supposed to be family friendly, kind of kid friendly, maybe like an entry level horror for sort of young fans. I definitely saw it when I was pretty young, and I remember it being like the definitive sort of scary spider film. I guess what else have we got? Or eight-legged freaks in terms of like modern
Eight-legged
ones,
freaks
but
much
again,
later, right? Nothing at the time.
much later, yeah. But that's like I mean, you would say that was way more of a horror comedy than perhaps this one is, because in this one, nothing's really played for laughs except maybe John Goodman's character a bit.
Yeah. Everything
But
else is played pretty straight.
yeah,
Like,
I don't know how it can be called
there'll
like a horror
sometimes be
comedy.
funny lines, won't there? Like, the bits where I don't know. Actually, yeah, there are some funny lines. They have little exchanges, fun little character exchanges. But
But
it's
yeah, that's
not
that's
a
almost like
comedy.
kind of
They're not necessarily jokes. They're just a couple of quips on occasion.
a couple of quips like poking fun at like the small town environment of the small town in this reminded me a bit of the town in the Elvira movie, Mistress
Yeah,
of the Dark, where just like yeah, everyone's completely stuck in their ways. They've got like one doctor who's on his last legs, you know, sort of stuck in a bit of a time warp, time yeah, and
yeah,
it's just one of those places, and obviously as often with these small town scenarios in movies, an outsider comes in, upsets the natural balance of things, on as well as an external threat coming alongside it. So it's almost like he's really made this happen. He has Doctor Death.
yeah.
Poor Doctor Death.
The harsh words of the small town. Yeah, this is. Yeah, there's like it has got a very classic feel to it. And even the poster, looking at it again, it's got like this Amblin, like ET, like hand painted kind of feeling to it,
Yeah.
which has the
So
family movie elements of it mixed in with what I would have said
I think
certainly as a kid is very horror centric.
yeah. Now you said the Amblin stuff. I think Steven Spielberg was involved in some way. Because Frank Marshall produced something possibly for Spielberg, and then Spielberg is an executive producer on this film, and Amblin Entertainment received a production credit as well. So, I guess like in the any sort of family friendly, slightly horror adjacent stuff in the 80s and 90s with this sort of Amblin feel. I heard someone talking about Amblin Entertainment recently where they said it's almost like Amblin films are like a genre of their own
Yeah,
because you can watch like 4 or 5 minutes of an Amblin film and kind of like get the vibe. And it's really hard to recreate, you know. There are plenty of films that try to recreate it, but they never really feel quite right, do they?
yeah. Looking at the poster again for Arachnophobia, I think what if it's really hard to distill what the elements of an Amblin movie are. But if you're looking at the poster, you see, look at the main poster of the film, which is like a moon, like a full moon with a spider coming down on a piece of silk, overlook in a valley overlooking the town. And on this image, there is the horizon where it's mostly a night sky, but there's just a little bit of sunset and there's some lovely wispy clouds, and you've got that color and that bit of sky. For
Yeah,
me, that is an Amblin film. That
yeah,
sky is what like if you said like, oh, draw an Amblin film, that's what the sky's going to look like. It's always getting a bit dark.
yeah. It's kind of like it's the cinematography, it's the kind of actors that they have, and the characters they sort of play, like a family man who's going up against it in some way and overcoming the odds. The soundtrack, I don't know who did the soundtrack for this film, but there's always something about it. Like it's kind of whimsical, it's kind of light-hearted, but at the same time, when it needs to get dramatic, it does, and the tension is there in the soundtrack as well. And Jeff Daniels playing it straight in this. I say playing it straight, but this is before the likes of Dumb and Dumber and
Yeah, for
what
even
else was he in
speed,
being silly?
not
Before
silly.
even Speed. I mean, way before Speed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Just a quick one, Ben, on the soundtrack. It's by Trevor Jones, who you will also know from
Labyrinth.
Excalibur, Runaway Train, Dark Crystal, Labyrinth. Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So it's got the sort of again. It's stuff like that. The fact it's produced by Hollywood Pictures, a subsidiary of Walt Disney as well, again makes you think this ain't a horror film. But it is. It is a
it
horror film.
very
There's loads of
very
horrific
much
stuff.
is.
There are people dying left,
I'm
right, and
surprised
center.
this was a PG. So what you said you watched when you were quite young, Ben. What's your history with this one?
So growing up, my mum like hated spiders, and this was always one. I think like any of us that hated anything in my household, we'd also kind of be mildly obsessed with it. Like I was super scared of zombies when I was a kid, but I loved watching zombie films and playing Resident Evil. Scared of sharks as well. Loved Jules, and I think my mum's the same. So she was like scared of spiders, but she was like, "Yeah, let's get Arachnophobia on because it's horrific." I just want to feel something, you know. So yeah, I remember watching it when I was really young, and I don't think it gave me a fear of spiders, but definitely made me more aware of them. I think whenever I saw any sort of spider, I'd always think, "Oh, I hope it don't bite me and I'll just die immediately," because that
Yeah,
would be a
like they do in this
shame.
film, because literally there's no time. It's not going to make you poorly, and you've got a few minutes to get some medicine. It
That's
is
it. You're done. You're done for.
and dead.
Hey, huh,
Yeah, he literally
dead.
turned to Scatman John for a second and then fall
And it's
down
kind of
dead.
like your worst. That's what shit's like your worst nightmare, isn't it? Like the fact that that could happen at any moment, and then that's it. You're done for.
And
The
these are little
venom, the
spiders that
toxins
actually
got you.
try and get you immediately. I mean, we should
Mm.
cover we'll cover performances as we go through and the stars, but for anyone who hasn't picked up on this bit of news, Arachnophobia has been on our list, I would say, for a little while. We do a creature
Hmm.
feature once in a while, but it was accelerated to the top of our list because of the sad news that the actor that plays Professor Atherton, Julian Sands, passed away the other week. So rest in peace, Julian. And I certainly think for a long time growing up, he was this character for me. This is what I knew Julian Sands from. I hadn't seen Warlock until much later,
Yeah, so I've not seen Warlock, but you watched that fairly recently, didn't you?
a little while ago now. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, so he's in a couple of Warlock films, isn't he? Yeah, so he like went missing, like hiking or something, didn't he? Like in January, and and his body was only recently found.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know that. I thought it just I'd seen that he'd passed away. I hadn't read the news as
oh
to
wow,
what had
yeah. So
happened.
so I think he was just on his own because he's like a mountaineer. So this is the thing. He's the real deal. Like not just playing some sort of like jet setting doctor professor of he's a professor of spiders.
Professor of
So yeah,
entomology. Yeah, he
he's an
was.
action man. He's an action man as well, like a mountaineer who went hiking in Mount San Antonio, and was reported missing later that evening. Apparently, he didn't return home, and he wasn't found in all this time. I'm assuming that there obviously was some sort of search party out for him, but it was on just on the 24th of June. Um, the human remains were found by hikers in the area where he'd apparently disappeared. So yeah, obviously quite a remote area as well.
Oh, that's
Um,
very sad. But obviously, someone who obviously lived life to the fullest and went out there. I think we most recently saw Julian Sands in. I hadn't seen him in things for many years. Not to say that he hasn't been working. I'm sure he continued to put films out. But I last saw him in The Ghosts of Monday at
yeah. Oh
one of
yeah,
our
of
Fright
course.
Fest movies that we saw.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so it was nice to see him back in that. I would say, not to damn the rest of the film with faint praise, he was one of my favorite elements of that film. His
Hmm.
performance in that one, because he has a certain, I'm going to call it gravitas, and he has it in this film as well. Like I would believe,
Yeah.
certainly as a child watching it, but even so now, if you were to say, "Oh, we've there's a this guy is a real professor," like immediately comes across as this is a
Yeah.
knowledgeable guy. He's got that eccentricity to him as the professor. He's always the character that stuck with me in this movie.
And it's such a shame that like he doesn't make it to the end. It's such
I
a shame.
know.
It feels almost unnecessary for him to, because I feel like you need to keep your expert in the film for as long as possible. Uh, I think you can kill your expert maybe like in the final battle when they've transferred their wisdom over to a main character and they're going right. Okay, I'm going to use that wisdom that the late um Doctor James Atherton gave me. But I don't know. It just feels like he's kind of doing some. Obviously, we're going to discuss it in full, and there will be spoilers for this film. I don't know. It feels like before the final act, he just is killed,
It's kind
not
of
off
gets got
screen,
off
but
screen almost. You see him like go gasp, and then we see him in
yeah,
a web
it feels
later.
unnecessary. I feel like I would have much rather, and no disrespect to John Goodman, because I know a lot of people like his character in this film. I would have much rather he got, because I don't know, he felt a bit out of place in the film, didn't he? In a way,
Mhm.
like I kind of liked it. The sheriff is a bit silly as well. Um,
But John
but
Goodman's character is almost like an outsider. He's like an exterminator that isn't like he's not at other scenes. Like whereas the sheriff,
yeah,
he is at the barbecue or they've seen him outside the school. He basically turning up doing standalone scenes as an exterminator,
mm,
not tied into the community as much as the rest of them. But no shade
yeah,
on that performance. It's another good one. But yeah, Julian Sands was the character that his character's the one I always picked up on from
yeah.
this movie. And looking back at the pictures in the opening scene that we see him in, dressed in an outfit that Dr. Alan Grant would go on to use in Jurassic Park just a few short
Oh
years
yeah,
later.
100%. Like
Lovely
what would you say?
neckerchief
That
there.
lovely neckerchief, sort of like denim or like blue sort of shirt. Just needs the hat, and he'd have the look complete. So in terms of like cast, we've obviously got Jeff Daniels as Dr. Ross Jennings, Harley Jane Kozak as his wife Molly Jennings, John Goodman as Delbert McClintock, who is the exterminator dude, Julian Sands, Dr. James Atherton, who we've already mentioned, and then like an ensemble cast making up the rest of this township with some familiar faces. Frances Bay, I recognize her from like Adam Sandler movies. Just loads of like familiar faces, loads of sort of character actors and bit part players that we kind of recognize from American cinema from this sort of era as well. But yeah, I was really taken in by the small town environment, and it's one of those things like, sure, it's a bit out of date and it's sort of stuck in a time warp. However, it still feels like a nice place to be, doesn't it? It doesn't feel like the. I mean, maybe
Bring your
having one
kid, you can
doctor
bring
would
your
be
kids
annoying.
up here. Yeah.
Yeah. So because obviously the family, Jeff Daniels, obviously we'll discuss why they're in this small town. But the sort of opening scene is with the British entomologist that you
An
say.
entomologist. So this is, yeah, we kind of get like again, Jurassic Park energy. We begin with kind of a cold open off
Yeah.
scene, don't we?
Jurassic Park energy, Congo energy as well. The
Yeah.
scene with Bruce Campbell, the sort of cold open where it's like characters in a jungle scenario. We know things aren't going to go well because it's going to be our introduction to what the threat is.
So we have basically a photographer is our point of entry character. His name is Manley.
He's ever so manly, this
He's ever so
guy. All
manly.
right, he's the
He's come
most
along.
manly guy. Jerry
Yeah,
Manley, yeah.
Jerry
So he's like
Manley's
a
come
photographer,
along,
yeah.
and he's basically doing some photography for Atherton's expedition.
So they're in the
Right?
Venezuelan Tepui, which is like the tabletop mountain, like a flat sort of mountain, South America thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's out there, and he's with these entomologists. They're finding new species of butterfly. They're finding all these creatures, and he's doing some photography for them. He's a bit of a fish out of water. This guy, he doesn't really like walking. He doesn't really like. You took the job, mate. You didn't think it was going to be in like you
Yeah.
signed up for a
There's
jungle trek.
loads of those like aerial Fellowship of the Ring style shots of like a line of people like traversing the mountaintop, isn't there?
Yeah, right until they've got into the deepest part of the jungle, where, as part of their research, they stumble across a spider that drops out of the tree, but hasn't been
Yeah, so
killed
what
by the
so
poison
what have
they've
they
used to
set
gather
up?
them.
Those weird sort of like, yeah, so they put this poison gas, is it like gas
They
out there?
they gas the canopy, and they basically study the animals that fall down. I imagine
Yeah.
modern conservationists will probably say there's a better way to study bugs
Yeah.
than to gas them out of the trees.
Seems horrible. I won't want to stand in that particular area either. Yeah, because loads of things are just falling down, and one of the things is like this a spider, a newly discovered species of spider. I don't think they say now, but they kind of think it might have prehistoric origin, and that it's been sort of because of geography, it's been kept in this place for
It's been
possibly millions of
contained.
years.
And the
Been
thing about
contained,
them
yeah,
is that they don't have, they see them as they go through it, because old Jerry Manley, one jumps at him and goes in his camera lens, and he stomps it to bits. Professor's ever so cross. He goes, all you can do is squash it.
but I
uh,
mean, I don't know what else you do. Because I think I would be terrified to
yeah,
jump in the
it
hissing.
jumped on your camera lens, and then it turns out that yes, another one is. Um, they find another one just there that's alive as well,
Yeah.
and they find out that it has no sex organs, and they likely have a society, these spiders, that are not solitary but actually operate more like ants or bees. They have like
Yeah.
workers or soldiers.
So like a hive, they talk about laborers and soldiers. They work as a hive. And yeah, that there's like a fertile male and possibly a queen. Did they say that?
Yeah, they have a
I don't
queen
think
and like a general, and then I think they unpick this as the film goes on, but they basically have a quick look at this spider. Goes, right, that's it then. Let's get back to camp. Then, as they go back to camp, cheeky little spider jumps out onto the equipment they're carrying. So it's going
Oh, he's
back to
ever
their
so
base.
cheeky, this spider. Yeah, and Jerry Manley gets he's got a serious fever on. He's
He's got a dicky
absolutely
thumb, hasn't he?
he's roasting. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he's got a dicky tum. When they put the spider in the jar as well, it's super aggressive. It's like sort of jumping up into the
yeah. Real spiders
Hmm.
as well. A lot of real spider work in this when I was reading.
Yeah,
Inspired by
even
last week's guest, I've been doing some more trivia this week, Ben, and
good work.
they had a real life Professor Atherton, a famous entomologist who was like a spider handler to make sure all the spiders were treated very carefully and were
Oh wow.
not
Yeah,
hurt.
because there's even bits when the spiders are getting sprayed with stuff, and like they're real spiders. Like
Yeah,
they're obviously getting sprayed
they
with
just
water
squirted
or
them with
whatever.
water, and spiders apparently,
Yeah.
as not my words, Ben, the words of the expert, they
Well,
don't
here, so it
care about
says
being
the
squirted by water.
safety of the spiders was paramount throughout the entire production. So the scene where McClintock sprays the arachnid with an insecticide and then squashes it with his boot. Guess what? That didn't happen. They went to extreme measures. A dummy spider was sprayed, and then Goodman donned special boots of a hollowed out sole for the squash. Wow. So he actually did slam his foot down. So he could
The
have
spider
literally
was nice
gone,
and safe. It's like playing
wow.
Danny Dyer's The Wall. There was like a little spider shaped gap, and he could just get into the right shape,
Yeah.
not be
So I'm
squashed.
assuming, so they're all, yeah, exactly like that. And I think the general spider at the end is animatronic.
Yeah.
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 Wow. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah.
yeah, so real life spiders I think really adds to the creepiness here. But the first spider that we're gonna have, just to finish off our cold open, old Jerry Manley goes, I'll tell you what, ever since Dickie I've been drinking the tap water. Idiot. Google that before you go, mate. Um, and Preston goes, "Oh, go and have a lie down." And then this is where you get the fear from this one because a spider gets into there. You
Oh,
see again, good like there's like a silhouette of the spider creepy crawling like along
yeah.
through his tent.
There's loads of good stuff like this. So there's like you see the silhouette at some point. You see like a reflection of the spider, like in a sort of stainless steel um surface, and then yeah, this like you see it coming up his sleeping bag and sort of like it moving underneath there, and
And
then a
then
lovely close up of the fangs.
yes, straight into the skin, and he like gets it. And then this is the thing, like they've done an effective job at building up the fear here because it's not even that he gets an opportunity to like call out because you see like the guy jumps up and like goes
Oh
ah,
yeah,
and then he goes to
tries to
like
call out.
shout, but
Yeah,
he's like, and then yeah, like stuck with me this one watching it as a kid. Again, forgot to say it. This was up there, Ben, for me with like Tremors, Little Shop of Horrors, other recent films. Like this was one of my
yeah,
VHSs off the telly that I pretty much watched on rotation growing up.
yeah,
So I saw this.
yeah,
I've seen
yeah,
this
yeah.
film probably among the top 5 or 10 films I've seen numbers of times for my life.
Wow.
And this was
Yeah.
one like where a moment of fear it comes through. You think, oh god, there's nothing you can do here. Like even if they'd
Wow.
seen him get bitten, he is dead in
Yeah,
seconds.
he'd just be gone, wouldn't he? Yeah, exactly. Tap,
And
tap.
that's it. And then the professor's assistant sticks his head in and says, "Do you want a cup of tea?" What?
Do you want a
Shakes
cup of
him,
tea? I'm boiling enough, mate. Shakes him, and then yeah, then the professor or
runs
the
and sees the
doctor comes,
professor.
checks his pulse. He's dead, and then yeah, so they send Manley's body back to his hometown of Canema in California.
Yeah,
But of
but
course, we see.
when they seal him in the coffin, you'll never guess. The spider's got in
Never
there
guess
with
what.
him.
He's ever so cheeky, this spider. Do whatever, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
So then we're kind of introduced to. Are we introduced to Jeff Daniels and the fam? Like
Yeah,
pretty
we
much.
see the family moving in. Sorry, Ben, I've now got it in my mind that this spider, what was he running away from at home? Do you reckon he'd had, because this is the fertile male, do you reckon he had a row with the existing queen? Where are you going to go
Yeah,
then,
she was
mate?
sick of him.
If you like,
Where are you gonna go? We've been stuck here for millions of years. We can't go anywhere. And he's
he's
like, right,
storming
that's
out.
it.
I'm going to go. I'm going to go and you'll never see me again. All right, go.
I'm gonna start an army of my own. All right, I'm gonna mate with a spider from somewhere else and start a mad
So,
world-ending army.
yeah, the existing queen probably sat there going, I'll be back in a minute. Little did
I'll
she
be
know
back in a
he'd
minute.
basically gone to America. He's gone thousands of miles.
Five goes west. Um, he's He's so yeah. When we're introduced to it's Dr. Ross Jennings and his family have moved into this small town to get away from California. Sorry, to get away from San Francisco, the busy life in a big city, and become like living in a small town where he become like the town's only doctor, essentially, taken over from some old coot. I think he says that at some point as well.
Yeah.
Who's retiring, so he's going to become the doctor, and they're going to just live out the rest of their days in a small town in peace and prosperity.
Just have a lovely time. And like, look at it. This is American houses for you. Look at that. Look at that square footage, man. What a big old house they've got.
A cellar as well. I mean, he loves.
Once he changed from $1 million house like that over here.
No, definitely not. So he's getting all his bottles put down into the wine cellar as well. He's loving life. They've got a big barn, which obviously there was a moment, a precursor to the spider mayhem. They see a little spider. Jeff Daniels is terrified of them, of course. And they go and put it in the barn to he's gonna live a lovely life out in this barn.
I guess is this the
again.
nod to comedy? Like is this where it's a comedy here? Because again, not jokes, but just some nice little bits of dialogue where the kids are shouting and he's like, "Oh, sorry, don't worry, I'm going to come and deal with this spider." And he goes in the house and calls his wife and says, "Can you come here, please? I need you to kill a spider." And it's like, again, not unfunny. I'm not criticizing it for that, but they're not jokes more than they are just kind of like light dialogue, right?
It's just like one of those it's just holding a magnifying glass up to gender norms, isn't it? I mean, really, he should be the one who's getting rid of the spider.
Dealing with spiders.
Wife.
Get a bloody glass, Jeff. Just put it over.
Get a bloody glass, for God's sake.
I guess they've only just moved in. They haven't unpacked the glasses. Oh, but we should say that the big spider is there because there's just been a little scene where just on the same day it happens when Jeff Daniels and his family are arriving in town. Jerry Manley's body is also arriving back in town, and the coroner opens up the coffin, and again, I didn't pick up on this as a kid. It looks like basically I'd always taken this as it was growing up as watching it as a youngin, that this was just the fact that he's decayed. He's a wrinkly old body in there now. But actually, something has gone awry, and he's been slurped dry in this coffin.
He's been slurped dry. He's been desiccated. The right word?
Yeah, desiccated like a coconut. He can be sprinkled on some macarons or a snowball now. But yeah, the spider escapes, and then we get again another low lift comedy moment where the dog goes out the dog flap, and then the cat goes out the cat flap, and then spider comes out the cat flap, and a bird picks it up. And that bird's probably thinking, bloody hell, I haven't had a spider this side for ages. And then it just falls down dead after a bit, and it lands.
Yeah, falls down dead, obviously got bit. So
in Jeff Daniels' new garden.
Yeah, it does. So there we go. We've got the connection to our main characters already. So it falls dead outside the barn where they just put the spider, isn't it?
Yeah.
And wait, it says Ross and his son suffer from arachnophobia. His son's scared of spiders as well?
Yeah, I guess he's the one that calls his dad, but Jeff Daniels is mostly the one that has arachnophobia because, no disrespect to the actor, but the son is fairly well, both of the kids are fairly non-characters, right? They just exist to show they have children.
Yeah, pretty much. And then there's a bit of a threat towards one of the kids a little bit later where we're supposed to sort of be worried about. Do we actually ever see, not that I expected there to be spider sex in this film, but do we ever see a moment where apparently they mate?
After they've been put there, you see there's a little cutaway where there's the big giant spider and a tiny spider, and they like touch fingers like E.T. They're like just meeting each other.
You'd be terrified, absolutely terrified. I'm assuming like the other one's a female one. You'd just be like, oh, Jesus Christ, no thanks, mate.
Can you imagine if people came in that size variance as well? It'd be like you potentially meeting and be able to get together with someone that was the size of a car.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds kind of terrifying, but also kind of pretty. Some people have a fetish for giant women. That's true. And by giant women, I mean literal giants.
The size of cars.
the size of cars. Yeah, giantess. So who knows? These things can happen. B movie. Remember B movie?
I
Woman and a
do
bee.
know of the B movie.
Yeah, that there was some sort of weird romance going on there.
So there you go. It's one of those classic B movie stories. It's a bit of a weird romance, but we leave them
Yeah.
to it, and then we see that. I tell you what,
Or like when you,
Dr. Jennings
or
isn't the
like
only.
I'm just
Go on.
thinking about when you see Shaquille O'Neal like with a girlfriend. It might not even be Shaquille O'Neal. It's somebody like that, like some sort of former basketball player, with a girlfriend who's. Sometimes I look at the photos and I think they've been doctored a little bit to make it look more ridiculous than it is.
Who
But
is the giant boxer that was dating Kirby from Scream 4?
oh, I don't know, giant boxer, not like the
Klitschko? Is it
Rush.
like the big like
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's like
Jesus
that
Christ.
effectively, but in spider form. Um
Yeah.
so um
Yeah.
yeah, so unfortunately, Dr. Jennings' only problem isn't having a bloody spider in his house that his wife refuses to kill. It's the doctor that you go see, Dr. Metcalf. He basically goes in for what should be his first day of work. Like, okay, so I'm here, you're due to
Yeah.
retire, and then Dr. Metcalf goes, "Oh no, I'm not retiring. I've changed my mind basically yesterday. I just decided I'm
Because
not going to
I've
retire."
changed my mind because I think I'm gonna die basically if I stop doing my profession, and a lot of people he knows have died. Um, However, Jeff Daniels has like moved. He's bought a house in this place and like signed all the paperwork and everything he needs to become the doctor in the town. But what's kind of weird, and this is obviously weird because it's set in the US, is that like being a doctor is kind of treated like a business
Mhm.
in this things. Like I got my own one and only patient. And have they got anything wrong with them? No. Oh, bloody hell, we're gonna be skint then, aren't we? Like you kind of urging people to be unwell just so you can make
Yeah,
a bit of money.
I guess it would be. I guess it's not completely dissimilar here, right? Where you have GPs who, like, they'll have partners in the practice, but in this case, it isn't that he brought him on as a partner because then, of course, he
Yeah.
probably would be incentivized to retire because he'd been bought out or because he'd
Yeah.
sold that practice to someone. But whereas in this one, it's just literally it appears that Dr. Jennings, Jeff Daniels, has turned up to take over the job with the understanding that they're completely unconnected, but there was basically going to be a vacancy because this other guy was retiring, only for this
Yeah.
guy to say, obviously quite a detailed thing. We had lots of conversations, but I've just thought, nah. And he's like, oh,
That's literally it, isn't it? So obviously Jeff Daniels goes back to his wife to explain everything because she's like quit her job as well, for them to be at it. Or no, she says so like severance pay. So she obviously
she's like in nondescript business. She's a nondescript businesswoman, isn't she? She's like, I'll
yeah, because
phone
they
my
talk about the
clients and I can
office
work from home and I can get a fax machine and
with a fax machine, and they don't you miss it? Don't you miss the office politics, the caffeine,
she's a
the
financial
adrenaline?
advisor, right?
Okay,
Because it comes up later in one of the other fun little jokes that we have here.
but yeah, other fun little jokes. Yeah, so yeah, you'd be fuming, wouldn't you, with Sam Metcalf when he leaves? He's obviously having a bad day already. When he leaves the doctor's surgery, he gets a ticket from the sheriff as well, who's like a bit of a douche, like a bit of a well-to-do. Well, he seems like I think someone says, "Oh, he's been a bully since school." So it's one of those people who's got like a chip on their shoulder. Now they're in a position of authority and they're taking it out on the world.
Yeah, he's being a little. Lloyd is being a piece of shit. He's like giving the doctor a ticket, and then
I
Margaret
love that.
Hollins
I love that Jeff
bollocks him.
Daniels is in a film with someone called Lloyd again as well.
Yeah, Lloyd's giving
Yeah,
him shit. Margaret comes along, tears up the ticket. He goes, "Oh, you can't do that. I'm an officer of law." And she goes, "Oh, eat shit, mate," but in a nice
you
old
just
lady
say
way,
shit.
not
Do what you want in a small town. Do you know what I mean? Police
And
officer giving you a
she
ticket,
used to
tear
be
up.
his school teacher. I think it's
Oh yeah,
implied.
you're
Yeah,
gonna take any shit from if he tries to arrest her. That's it. You can't. That'll never happen.
they get the
She's
cane
got you
out,
for
sort
life.
him out. Um, so
Yeah,
she, however, thinks that Dr. Metcalf is a right old hack. She goes, "Oh,
yeah.
actually, I'm going to be your patient because I think he's rubbish."
She says something like, "Oh, he's only just stopped using leeches. All right." Throws him under the bus for being having like out of date methods and just being an old stick in the mud, a wrinkly
Yeah.
old, dusty old bastard.
Yeah, and this guy is I would say for the first half hour of this film or so, is the main villain of the piece. Okay, he hasn't killed a photographer, but um,
You might as well have,
he's the
because
worst
yeah,
bloke because he's like, oh, I'm going to retire. Not really. Um,
yeah,
and then in an examination of Margaret, um, he goes, "Oh, you're like I'm." He goes, "Oh, I'm actually pretty pissed off. You're really healthy. You're really healthy." He goes, "Oh, what about my hypertension though?" He goes, "Nah, nothing wrong with
yeah.
your heart." And he goes, "Oh, I've been put on these pills." And he goes, "Chuck them in the bin. Don't listen to
Chuck
that
him
old
in the
dickhead."
bin. Metcalf give you pills for anything, wouldn't he? And he does explain to his wife that he couldn't find so much as a wart on her. That's what he's looking for. He was looking every nook and cranny for a wart,
Yeah,
but he couldn't find one.
couldn't find one, so she's all better. And she also has the good suggestion of, you know what? Everyone when he first moved here after the war, um, everyone thought he was a piece of shit as well. So he had a big barbecue and invited everyone around. And then everyone liked him after
Oh yeah,
that. And the doctor's got a fun little other way around. He's because they put on a barbecue for Jennings, Dr. Jennings and his family, and the old doctor's there. Oh, I remember when I moved here, everyone had a bloody lovely party for me. Margaret doesn't take no shit there. She's like, you give yourself a party. She doesn't like roll
throw a
her
party for
eyes and
yourself, you
go,
dickhead.
yeah, she doesn't roll her eyes and go, oh, he remembers it slightly differently. She goes, fuck off.
Well, you ruined it for me. Yeah,
So you're
pretty
not.
funny.
Just takes him down a bloody pegs. No, gave yourself a party.
Yeah, you
Um,
twat. So
this is where we
they
get
talk
to meet
about
all the
throwing a
characters, right?
yeah, yeah. So they throw a party. Yeah, obviously you get the uh guy who works in the morgue,
There's
morgue
the
mortician
mortician and his
guy.
wife who steal all the hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah. Who's
There's
getting tanked? Who's getting tanked up in this as well?
it's it's Jerry Manley's mom and dad.
Oh
And again,
yeah, that's
I
right, of
didn't pick this
course.
up again. I just thought
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
watching
yeah.
this as a kid, I was like, oh,
No, you wouldn't, would you?
local alcoholic addiction's funny. But
No, it's very serious.
but
They lost their son.
yeah, she's
He's been
saying like,
been
oh,
bloody desiccated.
yeah, she's saying like, oh, I couldn't even see him to say goodbye. Now, following the film, it's because he was all slurped dry by the spider in the coffin.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just again watch as a kid, I didn't pick up, but yeah, that is his family, and she's obviously grief stricken.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
not too
also they
grief stricken to just not go to the barbecue, I guess, but
yeah, don't bother. You don't want to. I mean,
she had a few
the
too many
funeral must have been
punches.
days ago. Yeah. And they even say about Jerry Manley that you'd be the life of the party. You'd have had too many punches and probably not got bitten by a spider. Yeah, because rather than thinking that his body's desiccated because of a spider, they think just that the methods of
It's the real life
of
horror of xenophobia, isn't it? Oh, all right, shit at preserving
yeah,
people in Peru, are you?
bloody yeah, these Venezuelans, what they do, who knows what they've bloody whacked on it, but the body's gone to shit.
I
But now it's the
mean,
spider's fault.
arguably, a lot of places in Central America are home to ancient civilizations and very well preserved bits of history. Maybe you could learn a little something from this.
Exactly. It says here
Um,
about I think there is a scene that sort of shows the spiders, sort of loads of spiders arriving in the barn, hundreds of infertile drone offspring with their father's lethal bite, but they leave the nest after consuming their mother.
I don't remember the consuming the mother,
No,
but
I
they're
don't
off.
remember that either. Yeah, they're off. So then we see obviously lots of them escaping, and this is where essentially after this barbecue is where we get the first death. And unfortunately for Dr. Ross Jennings, is his first and only patient. And Margaret, she deserved better, really, didn't she?
She did. Because all she's done is she's thrown a lovely party and then
Yeah.
again a nice character beat where we never know anything about her husband. We know that she's a widow and she's on her own, but she gets to have a little look at a character who's never on
Oh,
screen.
it was her who said about you would have been the life of the party, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Talking about her husband.
that's it.
Yeah, sorry.
That's it. I mean,
Guess I
Jerry
just
Manley
forgot.
probably would have been nice at the party as well.
Yeah.
It's not. Let's not. We don't know that anything about him. But she says that, and then she goes to turn off the light at the end of the day, and Spider, waiting in ambush, comes down again. Think about that. Think about it even after seeing this film. We're going to switch your lamp off. If you have a certain lamp that you have to reach under the lampshade to turn off at the switch near the bulb, could be a spider under there.
Could be a bloody spider. I think I do that every single night. Reach down and like, oh, it doesn't bear thinking about. So yeah, she gets bit, collapses, and then we pretty much cut to the next morning, don't we? When she's, would it happen like, I always feel like this when someone like dies, and then the next morning everyone's going, yeah, she died of this. Possibly wouldn't be found for a while.
I'm guessing
Lives on her own.
it's a lovely community. They're all just checking in on their elderly neighbours, as you all should.
As you all should. First thing in the morning. Yeah. So Metcalf straight up just says heart attack.
Yeah, heart attack. Oh, she had a history of Dickie Hart because actually I had her on medicine for him. And Jeff Daniels, no, I took him off those. And he was like, you what? I'm going to sue you for medical malpractice.
From an outsider looking in, you would think, what? You took her off the medication for her heart and she died the same day or the day after? You would be like, oh, a bit dodgy. Especially, again,
you outsider. That she was literally a ticking timer. She was one missed dose away. Missed dose away.
Exactly. Like, oh no, I missed my tablet. Wait, let me just go and oh fuck.
The surprise of realizing that you've missed your tablet is what tips you over the edge.
Exactly.
Either that or it's bin day. She was there having missed the tablet, said, "Oh, what day is it? The bins!"
The bloody bins. It's recycling as well. So yeah, obviously now this
after a big barbecue, you'd better be fucking shockers.
Yeah, it really would. I'd tell everyone to take their own rubbish home with them. Don't want to be overloading my bin. All right, take all your tinnies home. So yeah, obviously there's some tension between Old Man Doctor and Jeff
New Man Doctor,
because he's just like, you with your bloody newfangled nonsense coming in here and killing my patients,
following guidelines that have been put in place.
Exactly. So yeah, and after that, so it was fast track to a funeral, isn't it? Because after that is when the coach of the high school football team says, "You want some business? Come to the school later on, and I'll give you some business. What I'm gonna do is touch everyone's bollocks, and then they'll cough just to make sure." He's basically doing the medicals for all of the things. But
he's checking them for mumps or testicular torsions, but I don't know.
I'll tell you what he's not doing. He's not checking the helmets of any of them. Well, he might be checking those helmets, but he's not checking the helmets that go on their head for spiders.
He's definitely not. I mean, I would argue, as a medical doctor, not in his remit.
No. I know.
I'll give you a whole 100-point health check. I'll check your bits are all right, see if you're good at coughing, and then, little sweetener, this is from my newfangled medical practices, I will check your equipment for spiders.
I will. But this is obviously, he doesn't know about any spiders right now. And unfortunately, bad luck is the fact that everywhere he goes, people are dying and it's making him look incompetent. So yeah, one of the high school football players, Todd Miller, just collapses and dies. And obviously he's there as well. Jeff Daniels trying to sort of resuscitate him. And then after that funeral, he gets the nickname Dr. Death. One of the kids from nearby tells the Jeff Daniels kids as well that they've called him Dr. Death. Wherever you go,
these kids are
bloody
disloyal
dies.
Motherfuckers. Surely, oh, I'm sorry, my mate Bunny from down the road slagging off your dad. You picked her side.
Honey.
Yeah, we'll call him bloody Dr. Death, shall we?
Confusing, but obviously Jeff is trying to get to the bottom of it because he's like, something's fishy here.
Yeah, something's no good. Yeah, Jeff's not having it, and he's having more nightmares as well. He's been using Chekhov's nail gun to try and sort out his wine cellar.
Chekhov's nail gun.
Yeah, Chekhov's
I feel like
nail gun.
If this happened, I'd be looking at myself going, is it me? Am I killing these people? Am I
Dr. Death? But yeah, his cellar's rotten. People are calling him Dr. Death. The person who's meant to retire is now also not retiring and saying, "I'm going to sue you, mate. Medical malpractice."
But luckily, if he's had bad luck so far, Jeff Daniels, he's about to get a little bit of good luck. which is Metcalf himself getting got by the
Yeah.
spider.
He's having a little
So
blast on the treadmill.
he's having a little blast on the treadmill, and then doesn't he say he's gonna go and have a shower or something? But yeah, and then he puts his foot in a slipper. It's his wife's fault, really, because she says the floor's cold.
Oh, this is
Careful,
it.
you little tootsies.
He like because we see again good spider work. Again, I assume this is another real spider because only the big one is an animatronic. So little
Yeah,
spider goes along and gets in his slippers, and and it's a proper like Willy won't he wear them? It's like,
yeah.
oh, okay, I'll put my slippers on to come to bed. I'll put my slippers on because I'm going out. No, I just won't. No,
No,
I
I don't
am.
need a
I'm
slipper.
just I'm gonna go for a shower. Okay, I'll just walk. The floor's cold. He goes, okay, I'll put my slippers on. And as soon as he did it, he's right on the
Indecisiveness
toe.
is the death of him. I'm pretty indecisive as well. I feel like that's not the way I want to go. You know, 'cause I always feel like when you like get caught in two minds, you go, "I'll do the first thing I thought of. No, I'll do the second. I'll do the first." And you do the first, but then something bad happens because of that, and you're like, "I should have done a second."
It's too late. I can't make a bad choice. But I tell you what, though, he does have the peace of mind to, because he goes, oh, bloody hell, been bitten on the toe. Been bitten on the toe.
Oh
And then he
yeah,
starts seizing up and he's able to go, oh, having a seizure. Phone the. Phone
found a
Jennings.
good doctor.
He
Found
phones
a
Jennings. If you were there, Ben, so in your life as an artist and designer, if you moved to a town where there was an old artist and designer who said he was going to retire and then didn't, and you were fucked over, and then the first couple of people you'd done a design for died, Death
yeah.
Note style, and then the designer that hadn't retired went to die, and you got a sudden panicked phone call saying, "Oh, he's stuck on this job and he's in the middle of dying. Can you
You've
come
got to
round and
design
deal
this
with it,
poster
please?"
for me. You got to
Would you
design this logo for me.
would you rush round, or would you be like,
I won't rush around. I go around the next day in it. I won't go around now. I it's
would you
11
look at
p.m.
your phone? Obviously, this is 1990. There was no caller ID. If you saw that your mobile lighting up now, it was like Dr. Metcalf's house. You'd be like, no.
We just be like, what on earth does he want? Like at this time, is he calling
He's
me
going to
to
talk
say,
about suing me again. Not
yeah, I ain't
answering.
answering that. But yeah, by the time Jeff Daniels gets around there, it's good really because he is Doctor Death. So by the time he gets around there, he's already dead. And I think his wife even says, "Thank God you didn't examine him earlier." So does he say that? Or does she say that? Or does he say that? I can't
Might
remember.
be piece of shit Lloyd. Oh no, I think it is Jeff Daniels that
Yeah,
said it. It's like, oh, thank God, someone that's died that I've got nothing to do with.
yeah. So again, Jeff Daniels is trying to work out something's wrong here. Like people aren't just dying willy nilly. Who's this other person who turns up now?
Well, yeah, I don't know where he's come from, but Milt Briggs, apparently he's the county coroner. Like
Okay.
he makes a couple of calls. So we have a coroner that's in the local town, but he calls like the
Yeah, he's like something's awry here.
the regional supervisor. He phones him and says, "Can you come?" And he's on his side. He's like, "Yeah, we'll get autopsies. We'll dig those people up." And Lloyd isn't happy about it. The sheriff saying like, "You can't dig those people up from those eternal resting places." He goes, "Fucking can." Milt Briggs is on my
Yeah.
side.
Exhume. I love that word.
Yeah,
Exhume.
I'm exhuming him. I'll exhume him all day long. You watch it, Lloyd. I fucking exhume you.
I'll exhume the shit out of you.
I'll exhume. Yeah. So
And then
he
how
exhumes
does he
them.
start to work out that? So
Well,
he works out there's a spider bite now, doesn't he? He kind of.
because the Metcalf's wife, the old doctor's wife, says, "Oh,
Oh
he got
yeah,
bitten
yeah.
by a spider just before he died," and he goes like, "Oh," but he calls in some help. So we get Julian Sands himself comes back. Jeff Daniels phones up, said, "Oh, I've heard you're the best professor in all of Spider Town." And he goes, "Oh, it's very nice of you. Thanks very much." And he's a bit angry at first. He's like, "Oh, I think spiders
Poor
bitten them." And
spiders.
he's gone like, "Fuck's sake. People come in here slagging off spiders." And that's when he does the little fact you mentioned earlier. I'm not sure it was before we started recording or not, that all the bugs that you would have if there weren't spiders. Actually, spiders, really good.
Yeah, the best.
So don't go slacking them off on to me of all people, a person who is a fan of spiders. But
Yeah.
given he doesn't quite put it together, but obviously he has a vague memory of Manly. So when he tells them, "Oh, I'm in this town." He takes a little pause and he
Yeah.
sends his assistant, who is
Hang on a minute.
just a
I
nice
remember the name
man
of
that
that town.
you might meet, just a nice, helpful
Yes.
assistant along.
So he sends Chris Collins, his assistant, who comes and basically what do they look for? They identify. Yeah, I think he identifies spider bite marks on the
All
bodies when they
three.
do the autopsy.
They
So yeah, there
eventually find
clearly
all
is.
three.
They find all three. Yeah, and when they're looking for spiders, well, they're looking at various things. They're looking at some webs and um various things like that. And then when the first spider they find is in a box of cereal, right?
Dead in a box of cereal, which may or may
Hmm.
not have been killed after it saw Lloyd.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah. He
chamming
does
away
say
on
that,
the
doesn't he?
cereal in a dead woman's house.
Oh yeah. Well, she ain't gonna eat, is she? Um, and yeah, after that they actually find a live one. It like leaps out from behind the curtain. Um, and they manage to put a glass on it, and so they've got a species. They've got a live
They've got one that
specimen.
they can. So they're doing their research at this point as well. There's been a few cutaways where we've had a friend, John Goodman, Delbert the Exterminator,
Oh yeah.
has turned up at this point. So he's
So he
been
got called.
to
He got called in by the wife, Molly
Jeff
Jones.
Daniels' wife because of the rotten wood in the cellar. I think, has he got termites? And he goes, "Oh no, the problem here is that you've got bad wood."
We talk about the theme tune that goes alongside his
Yeah.
arrival into the film. Some great music in this. I mean, we'll talk about the song in the end credits as well, because wow, like an actual spider, loads of spidery lyrics.
Yeah,
Um,
excellent work.
excellent work. But yeah, this is the thing. Like, sure, it is got horror vibes, but like this sort of stuff is a bit. What film had like two police officers who were a bit like idiots, and the music was probably like yeah, something like that, wouldn't
Like
it?
a dragnet or something like that. Like
What was it? It was a film we watched. I think there was the police in the last house on the left had a sort of weird theme song, and I think it might have been Fright Night as well, where like the police had a sort of ridiculous, over the top
Fright Night or
theme.
maybe Maniac Cop, Matt Cardle. Obviously, he isn't silly. He's very serious,
He's
but
far from
like,
silly. He's far from
yeah,
silly. But yeah,
Maniac.
and obviously John Goodman is a bit like just a presence, I guess you would say, in this
Yeah.
film, isn't he?
The music is like, it's like a
It's very
sitcom.
like sitcom. It's sitcom. Yeah, it's
Like
like
taking on his Roseanne days.
yeah,
So he comes up. The first time he appears, he is saying, actually, he's there looking for termites, not spiders. And he goes, "Oh, take out like no termites here. You've got bad wood. How do you fix it? Tear out bad wood, put in good wood." But then
yeah,
he appears again, and this is a throwaway scene. I don't think it matters at any particular part of the movie, but um, the main bit we get here is the daughter has gone for a sleepover at Bunny's. We've met her older
yeah,
older sister. We assume for the purposes of the movie her 18-year-old sister, because the next scene with her in it, she's having a shower. And
mm,
again, this is a this is a bit that sticks with you because she is washing her hair in the shower. She's getting a right old suds up. And the spider is like crawling across the top of the shower cubicle and it goes down into her hair,
There's
slides
so
down
many
her while she's
moments where
having a
spiders
shower.
are on people's hands in this. You're like, how can they not feel that? Yeah, it's pretty mad.
That's their weighty spiders, but then she does see it and basically kicks it down the drain. The
Yeah,
exterminator comes, has a look around for spiders, and then finds it outside, gives it a squirt with like insecticide, but it doesn't die, showing that they have some resist. I guess that's mostly to show that they're resistant to standard bug
yeah.
killers. So he uses Old Painless, the old boot, and
The old big boot
stomps on him.
gives it a big stomp.
In that bit of trivia you had where he had the hollowed out soul, so the spider would actually be fine.
Yeah, be absolutely fine. So the small spiders used in the film, I've got some trivia here for you, were Avondale spiders, a harmless species from New Zealand that was provided by Landcare Research in Auckland. Despite their fierce appearance, this spider is a docile member of the crab spider family and is in fact harmless to humans. They were not allowed back into New Zealand for quarantine reasons. I just want to go and see my family. I've been gone for 8 weeks.
So it was a
You're
permanent
not coming
relocation.
back.
It was a permanent relocation for those spiders. They had to emigrate permanently for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. And the giant spider used in the film was a species of bird-eating tarantula. Yeah, they're the scary ones, aren't they?
Yeah.
Those types are not easy to handle and can give a nasty bite. Ooh.
Did you, if you haven't already seen it in your other bits of trivia, Ben, do you know what they use to replicate the sound of the spider being stomped on? If not, you want to have a little guess? What
Ooh,
would you, if you were a folding
spider
artist?
It's got to be some sort of fruit, right? Some sort of eggs, maybe.
Oh, eggs. That'd be a good one to try. They use crisps apparently.
Oh, did they?
Some lovely
Any crisps in particular? Frazzles.
I think if you're gonna have a strong crunch for a spider, you're gonna want like maybe a kettle's chip, maybe.
That'd be good.
You want a
1990 though.
handcrafted.
1990. It was the time of the Space Raider.
Yeah, you're not gonna have a maize-based snack to do a spider, unless they're very, very fresh. Otherwise, that's more of a crush than a snap.
That's
I mean, the
true.
standard walkers, I guess, would do you fine.
Yeah. So not long after this is when Dr. James Atherton arrives in town because they've made sort of a connection, haven't they? So I think they
finding the spider
them,
bites,
they
they're
put it
calling
together.
him, and then they've got the specimen ready for his arrival, and he turns up in town now.
Yeah, that's right. And how do they work out that the spider arrived? He's like, oh yeah, the reason you knew this town was because it was where you sent Jerry Manley's body when you were looking for the Venezuelan spider. And Jeff Daniels is like, I reckon your spider hitched a ride here and is going crazy. But yeah, they obviously dial it up a notch, don't they? They kind of say like, oh, you never know what's going to happen. It's going to destroy this town and the next town. Yeah. It's like, whoa.
He implied, and the professor, I don't know, it's like a whole xenomorph thing. So there's this first wave of spiders that have a fairly short lifespan and are really poisonous. They have the poison of the big spider, but they're little, like house spiders. Yeah. They're going to be going out there. That's why there's no crickets that you can hear. This is why they're wiping out the town.
Oh yeah.
But he implies there's going to be an egg sac that will produce fertile spiders because of their crossbreeding, and will basically wipe everyone out if it can happen.
It's terrifying. I'm feeling a little bit itchy now just thinking about it. So yeah, they sort of all join forces, don't they? So it's like Atherton, Dr. Ross Jennings, the sheriff, who else? Loads of people. The exterminator as well. And yeah, so they work out short lifespan due to the crossbreeding. But yeah, that they're soldiers sent to eliminate potential threats with a male spider leading the colony, which he calls the general. And he learns that the general produced a queen inbred with her to make a second nest, which we've already mentioned, guarded by the queen. Worldwide dispersal. Jesus Christ.
They're going to be all over the place if you don't get rid of these spiders. They have to work quickly, and that's why they've got the team. They've got Sheriff Lloyd. You've got what was the name of the
exterminator?
Milt Briggs, the county the county guy, and then you've got the exterminator Delbert, and of course Dr. Jennings, not Dr. Death, despite the fact that his own kids have sold him out and started calling him.
Just devastated. James Atherton sees a picture on the wall of a spider web, and he says, "Where is this?" And they say it's the barn at Dr. Jennings' house. So he's like, "Take me there immediately."
And they've just calculated. They've also just calculated that what's at the center of these points on this map here.
Yeah, they basically say all the spiders are spread out like a web, in a map. What's the central point? It's Dr. Ross Jennings and Molly Jennings' house, of course.
So they're on the way back, but the first thing, oh shit, you know who we've got to go and get first? We've got to go and get the main coroner. And they unfortunately are not answering the phone because it's time for the Wheel of Fortune.
It's time for the Wheel of Fortune. It takes the phone off during the Wheel of Fortune. Oh yeah, someone with an important job like a coroner. Yeah, well, it's quite a quiet time. Yeah, exactly.
So while they're there, they've got their popcorn. They've got some fake butter pumped on there. Um,
Yeah.
bearing in mind they have the option. There's really good. What do you want, real butter or fake? They're like, fake.
I can't believe it's not butter, is what I want on
Yeah,
it.
it's got some utterly butterly on there, and um, we again, these guys don't get it on scene. They go around their house to pick them up to do their final
Yeah.
spider defeats the spider hunting mission. I think actually, tell a lie. I think Professor Atherton realizes that it's that house
Yeah.
separately once Jeff Daniels has already gone.
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
I think so.
so they realize that this has happened. They go and get the coroner, and again, for a PG film, I think this is horrifying. They're
Yeah,
sitting
definitely.
death still, waxen faces on the sofa. They go to talk to him, and a spider crawls out of his nose.
Yeah. It does. And there is he a bit desiccated as well? A little bit? Oh no,
I
he's
guess
not. Well, he's just
it must be
dead.
inside him, slurping him dry right now.
Jesus. Yeah, pretty horrific.
Yeah, that I think that's probably one of the standout scares of this movie. Like a spider coming out of your nose, especially when it's the spider that got you. I'd tell you what, give you a start if you'd been killed by standard murderer and a spider
Yeah.
had got in your nose while you were
Yeah.
dead.
Wow. So yeah, Atherton and the sheriff go to the barn. And then I can't remember. Oh yeah, and then he basically says, "This is where the nest is going to be. Go and get everybody," to the sheriff, and the sheriff leaves, and then that is when Atherton, Julian Sands, gets got by the spider. Kind of like, didn't he say something like "coming it's supper time" or something like
Yeah,
that? He's trying to.
he's twanging the. If there's any criticism of this film, it's maybe that this guy who's a spider expert absolutely fucks it on knowing about spiders in this scene on his own. He sort of goes and twangs the main
Yeah,
thread of the web and summons the spider.
it's like he's
And he
attempting
gets
to
got.
catch that general, isn't he? Yeah, so he gets got. Um, and then it's kind of like the big finale pretty much now. So Delbert, played by John Goodman, finds Atherton's body, and like, oh my god, they got the doc. You see that?
That was an
Um,
advert break when I watched this as a kid. It goes, "Oh my god, they got the professor." Cuts to ads, and it was one that we
cuts
had.
to.
We'd missed editing those out. We hadn't been sat there with the pause button on the VCR,
Oh
so
no,
it goes to some
you got some
excellent
classic adverts.
19 ads about Kidderminster carpets or Toys R Us or something like that.
I love it. I love watching old adverts like that. Good times. So then basically who's Chris? Wait, Chris Collins.
Chris,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
he's the doctor.
Chris,
So he goes to
Chris the
get
assistant. I love it
the
on this
assistant.
scene because he hasn't met Dr. Jennings' family, but they do take a moment of dialogue to introduce himself, even though there's literally spiders boiling out of the walls in the house. He goes,
Yeah.
"Hi, I'm Chris. Nice to meet you."
Oh shit, there are spiders everywhere. So this is where the spiders have truly descended upon the house. They're everywhere, all over the walls, doors, windows. Can't get out, so they run upstairs to sort of like climb out the window and escape for the house there. But Ross ends up, doesn't there something fall on his face, and he falls through the floor
Also, there's
with the
some
rotten wood.
wicked scenes on this one. So they go in and they calmly try to get the family out of the house. But then before you know it, the spiders crawling down the TV. They're coming out of everywhere in the house. They get the rest of the family out of the window. Chris unfortunately breaks the trellis, falls down.
Oh.
But as Jeff Daniels tries to get over, there's a bit. And as an actor, I think it would be quite. I think I'd be quite nervous, even if they are harmless spiders. He's leaning, sort of limboing through the window, and there are spiders sort of coming down on
Yeah.
silk strings towards his face, and he ducks underneath. They're coming out of the plug hole of the sink. They're coming out of there, and it's because they're protecting the nest because the professor's already revealed they wouldn't be any. They'd be guarding the area, but no spiders would go near the nest. And then, as you were just saying, Ben, he tumbles off the top of the stairs. But as we learned earlier, Chekhov's rotten floor. He falls through it into the
Oh
basement
yeah.
in the wine
Absolutely
cellar
devastated.
where he is lying down there and he realizes, hang on, musty smell, no
Yeah.
spiders. I'm in the nest.
I'm in the nest. He works that out straight away. And it's it kind of terrible for him. The man with arachnophobia. I know it's supposed to be he's overcoming his fear to like fight this final battle, but the fact he has to pretty much do it all on his own is kind of horrific, right?
Yeah, because Delbert, having found the professor, has got out the most toxic spray you can find that literally makes things. He's got basically xenomorph blood in a canister, and he's
Yeah,
squirting things. And he has gone into the house like fully kitted up, left the family outside. He's railing in there trying to like blast them all. So he's getting his way in.
yeah.
But Jeff Daniels is stuck in the basement when no one's looking.
Mm. Devastated for him. Absolutely
Um,
devastated.
and he has basically a 2-on-1 fight with the Queen first, who he
Yeah,
eventually defeats by electrocuting. Right?
yeah. So the queen like leaps at him, and he ends up. Is that when he fires a nail gun and it gets
That's the
electrocuted
last
like
one.
on the
So
thing?
he electrocutes the first one,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
and then he ends up in another fight with the general.
Yeah, it's like the final boss, isn't it? The general.
Um, yeah, he gets the fear. There's a bit where he's like paralyzed by fear, and the spider crawls on, but he's able to recover as it crawls back and like bashes the a bit of wood to basically catapult it into some fire. He goes around like flamethrower style, big aliens energy in this, right? Like a crawling fast enemy. He's there with a
Yeah,
flamethrower creeping around.
yeah, definitely. It's definitely like face hugger energy. It's terrifying.
Yeah, and then we know we finds the egg sack. Little spiders start coming out of it, but that's when he sets the general on fire. Runs around screaming like the graboids at the end of Tremors, and then this is when he shoots it with a nail gun in the final confrontation and fires. A flaming general spider gets nailed to the egg sack, and it all burns up.
Oozes out and explodes, and like yeah, it's pretty gruesome. But yeah, it's what it deserved.
Yeah,
This horrible big
and
evil
then
spider.
I mean, it's a big dramatic scene, but Delbert does come and rescue him like 30 seconds later. Oh, thank God. It's like,
Yeah,
don't mention it. So, in true Indiana Jones style, if Ross had been got by the spider, Delbert would have come in moments later and saved the day.
yeah,
So the
yeah,
spiders wouldn't have. Don't worry for the fate of the rest of America, everybody.
yeah.
Had had Dr.
Even if
Ross not
Ross ended
fixed
up
it,
dead,
it would have been solved moments later.
exactly. There we go.
And
Uh,
that's it. And then, oh, they move back to San Francisco. I guess leaving that town doctorless.
yeah, I guess so. Unless anyone else takes up the mantle, but basically they're trying to say, yeah, we've had enough. We tried it for a few days, weeks, probably a few weeks. Tried it for a few weeks. It was, to be honest, it was mental. What was it like in that town you moved to just for a few weeks? Spiders everywhere. And yeah, then there's like an earthquake essentially
And they're
in
like,
San
oh,
Francisco.
practically nothing.
Practically nothing is fine. And then we get a lovely song at the end of the movie as well, which is called what's it called?
I'm gonna bring this up. Do you know?
There's like a song called "Caught in Your Web," I think, which is, and there's another song called "Left My Heart." So I left my heart in San Francisco. It's on the soundtrack,
That
but
must
this
be the
song,
San Francisco song when they're there, right?
yeah. So "Caught in Your Web," "Swear to Your Heart" is a song from there. I think that's got to be it by Russell Hitchcock. Um, the song was written a track from the soundtrack album of Arachnophobia. It's got to be it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But let me just try and work out what the lyrics are
Because there are some absolutely. You do some googling, and I'll say it's an absolutely quality
arachno
spider-based song. We wouldn't see the likes again until "Deepest Bluest" by Ladies Love Cool James in Deep Blue Sea, or a song
yeah.
about Samuel L. Jackson from the action movie SWAT.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, listen to the end credits of SWAT, everybody. It's something like "I'll see you in traction," thanks to getting shit beaten out of you by Samuel L. Jackson. It's
I
very
think
good.
the song is called "Don't Bug Me." Um, that sounds about right. Don't bug me. I can't find out what the lyrics are. because
But
Google's not playing ball.
well, yeah, mine's going
But
slow
yeah,
as
there's
well.
loads of stuff like I got caught in your web. Don't bug me. Don't squish me is like something like there's something like that they sort
Yeah,
of say.
it's all spider. Like it's written from the spider's point of view, right?
It's written from the spider's point of view. Yeah. Don't bug me. Don't mug me. I'm better left alone. Let me twirl in my world, out in the wild unknown, night crawling, free falling. Don't get in my
Free
way.
falling.
Don't squish me or death wish me. I can spin a web. I can spin a tail. Leave me in the jungle. Take me to the town. It's literally like they've just gone.
The plot of this movie: leave us in the jungle, take us to the town.
Eight legs and one pea brain. It's 8 legs and one pea brain. Why is this from the point of view of the spider? Because it feels like you're kind of mocking the spider in a way by saying it's got a tiny little pea brain. It's literally like someone's given him the script and gone, write a song for this film. Will you? What happens? Well, there's a spider in the jungle and then it gets taken to the town. Okay, first line, leave me in the jungle, take me to the town. Bug.
Animatronic work there because we see the
So,
big spider's eyes with the flames reflected in them. It's good.
yeah. And when it's on fire running around, it's pretty cool. It's terrifying. Unfortunately, Don't Bug Me by Jimmy Buffett is on the Reddit page, crappy music.
Well, it's the thing with this, like no quality control on Reddit, is there? Like put what you want on there.
Put what you want on there, yeah.
I mean, I'll do a quick check. Is Don't Bug Me by Jimmy Buffett on Spotify? Let's have a look.
Is it on Spotify? Did you say?
I'm just looking it up. No.
If it is, it's not.
It doesn't appear to be. Don't Bring Me Down by the Electric Light Orchestra. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. A podcast episode called Songlines and Tan Lines. I'm guessing that is an episode about that one. But yeah, unfortunately, do get writing to Spotify, everyone, because currently you cannot enjoy Jimmy Buffett's Don't Bug Me.
Yeah, that's very, very disappointing. Very disappointing. I'm going to be writing an angry letter. There we go then. That is that. Have you got
Arachnophobia?
Yeah, I'm gonna let you take the lead on the name game. I might chip in with one or two, but I'm sure yours are a lot better than mine.
Right, I've got 5 for you today. But actually, I don't know if you've seen this in your trivia, Ben. So answer honestly if you have. But inspired by last week, I've got a little bit more. So you can have a couple of trivia questions if you would like first.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So the first bit of trivia I have for you is, what did, especially given the comedy elements of this film, what did Steven Spielberg want to run as a short before Arachnophobia in cinemas, but couldn't because it wasn't ready in time?
It's got to be Jurassic Park, right? Something Jurassic Park.
Just a short one. It's not Jurassic Park.
It's not. Okay.
Any other guesses?
Is it just one of his films, but a short version?
It's a short animated film featuring whom?
Oh, a short animated film featuring E.T.?
No, it's Roger Rabbit. So,
okay.
Given the period of time, so those are people who remember Roger Rabbit. It begins with a Roger Rabbit cartoon, right, before it pans out to the series. If you've seen Roger Rabbit, it's available online, or it was on the DVD of the film when it came out. They made another 2 Roger Rabbit short films. So it's basically just a Roger Rabbit cartoon. Steven Spielberg wanted to play one in front of Dick Tracy and another one in front of Arachnophobia, but it wasn't ready until 2 years after it came out. Wasn't finished in time. So there you go. That's a little trivia there. And the other bit of trivia I have for you is, obviously they used some real spider actors or aractors in this film. What did they use to get the spiders to hit their marks? What did they use to get them to move in the ways they wanted them to move?
Oh, some sort of like little insect treat, like a little
fly on a string,
little fly, or some sort of like sugar water. I don't know. Does that even work?
They used the hairdryer just to give them a little blow.
Oh right, okay.
Use the hairdryer to get them to move where they wanted them to.
That's good. That's good. I like it.
Okay, right, now it's time for the traditional name game. Have you got the synopsis for me there, Ben? And I'll see what I can do with it.
Yes, yes, of course. So the synopsis for Arachnophobia. A species of South American killer spider hitches a lift to the US in a coffin and starts to breed and kill.
Okay. Going to completely ignore that because I'm going to go with one that talks about Jeff. So a new doctor moves to a rural community, and through events that unfold with some dangerous spiders, I imagine, but these spiders are really into accessing your computer illegally and stealing your information. And he's afraid of it. It's Jeff Daniels.
Accessing you. So a hack.
Yeah, he's afraid of it. And it sounds like Arachnophobia, the film.
Arach. Arach. No. What did I say? A hackophobia.
Arachnophobia, that's what he
A
has.
hacknophobia. Yeah, I'm terrified of that. Get yourself some good
Arachnophobia.
antivirus.
Yeah, get yourself some VPN coverage, guys, and please don't reuse your passwords. Come on. So this time, a doctor moves to a small town, hoping to escape the band who most famously produced My Sharona. Unfortunately, a hybrid of that band follow him there.
A knack-ophobia.
The Arachnophobia, correct.
The knacknophobia. Nice.
Next, Jeff Daniels moves to a new town, only to face the problems, the fact that he's not able to escape his fear of the lead character from Saved by the Bell, who follows him there.
Oh, the lead character from Saved by the Bell. I can only think of.
He's a little bit of a player as this character, and he's always going on 2 dates at a time, or the like.
Jack. Phobia.
It's not Jack. What's the
remember.
coolest letter of the alphabet?
The coolest letter of the alphabet?
After X.
Z?
Yes.
Zach.
Arachnophobia. 2 to go for you. Actually, right. I'll save my favorite one till last. But here's another one for you. So nice, easy one. So Jeff Daniels, Dr. Jennings, moves to a rural community. But bearing in mind it's a rural community, he finds he's confronted by his fear of just animal dung. It's particularly a slang term for it.
Animal dung.
Or things that are not very good, I guess, as well. He's not a fan of that either. He's afraid of it.
A crapophobia?
A crapnophobia, that's what he's got.
A crapnophobia. Okay.
But finally,
yeah,
Jeff Daniels, Dr. Jennings, moves to a rural community, hoping to escape from his long-standing fear of the 44th president of the United States. Unfortunately, he's still in America and he has to face him.
The 44th president. I've got awful knowledge of presidents. Is it someone in the last 100 years?
Donald Trump was number 45.
Oh, Donald Trump was number 45. So
he's afraid of the 44th president, though. That's the one he's afraid of.
Arachnophobia.
Arachnophobia. Very good.
That's good. That's good. I like it. Right, I'll try and deliver 2. I'll give you 2.
All right.
2 were very similar to what you'd already done, so I'll give you this. First one: a species of South American killer spider hitches a lift to the US, where they get entangled with a certain famous crime family from a famous TV show, possibly some people say the best TV show of all time. And the leading man from this from this TV show, one of the spiders goes right down into his arse. Because he leant over and he didn't have a belt on that day, so a bit of his
the crack.
A crack.
A crack.
The lead character from the most famous crime family in fictional
Tony Soprano.
Television. Yeah,
I've never watched The Sopranos. James Gandolfini, the actor.
No, just the character's name.
Is it Tony Soprano?
Yeah.
So a crack. How do I make Tony Soprano fit into Arachnophobia?
It is a crack of Tonia. A crack of Tony. There we go. I told you it was bad. I warned you about
I've
this.
really got a crapnophobia now. That's good.
Arachnophobia. Okay, and last one.
All right.
Arachnophobia, the movie Arachnophobia, is remade.
By James
as a
Wan, as rumors apparently attest
yeah,
to
there
right
are
now.
rumors, aren't there? There are rumors. Is remade by an ensemble of female comedians famous for a Channel 4 late 90s TV show.
Thank God I've got one. It's a smackmaponia. Smack the ponia.
A Smack the Ponia. That's correct. So see, usually I try and be as simple as possible, but for some reason I was in your mindset of like trying to replace every word, so or every syllable of the title. But
Very
yeah,
good is what I say about that.
very good indeed. 10 out of 10. Well
10
done,
out of 10.
everybody.
No notes.
0 notes. There we go. So we just got to rate the movie as well. How would you like to?
Oh, you know what, Ben?
Rate?
I've thought about this long and hard, and I still love Arachnophobia. And I think it held up really well because real spiders, tell you what, don't age CGI wise. Like they still look like actual spiders. Yeah, they look like real spiders. It's still very creepy. I think it has more. I think it has more horror elements than you would think from when you see it represented as a PG rated. Because and obviously spiders represent a real fear for someone. I still find it very, very charming. So I'm gonna go for this an A minus from me. I think it holds up really well.
A minus. Okay, nice one. Yeah, that's good. I rate it highly as well. I think I've always enjoyed it. I've seen it dozens and dozens of times. I think in part, it's, again, another one of those films that if it's on TV, you'll just sit and watch a bit of it, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Or watch whatever's
absolutely. You
left.
could if you saw that spider coming down to someone's hand, you'd sit and watch the end, wouldn't you?
Yeah, most definitely. And a lot of people said this did for spiders what Jaws did for sharks. It's got those vibes, isn't it? It's got like those Gremlins vibes as well. Like sure, these things can kill you, but it's a bit tongue in cheek. It's a bit of a good time. It's a bit fun. But yeah, I think sort of pushing it forward as like a horror comedy probably isn't correct. I think it is just like a horror movie, a kind of PG-13 family friendly horror film with some laughs. Yeah. I'll probably just go for a B plus. I don't think it's right up there in terms of maybe it's just one of these films because I've seen it so many times. It's kind of lost the not the magic, but it's lost the impact perhaps that it would have. I think if I'd seen this for the first time, I probably might have gone a bit higher. But
so you're a big boy and you wouldn't and you are not so scared of spiders anymore.
I'm a big boy, not so scared of spiders, but I did get like all itchy and a few times like ooh, like that. Like I've got to go like I won't be able to just go to bed now. I'd have to do something else to cleanse my brain.
Something about not spiders. Like what's got no legs?
Snake.
Yeah, watch snakes on a plane.
I watch snakes on a plane. Yeah.
I mean, I know in recent years you've been doing some introductions to horror with your daughter. Where do you think she would land on Arachnophobia? Has she seen it?
So I asked her to watch this with me, but she just said no. And I think it wasn't just because it was a spider film. I think she was just not in the mood to watch anything like this. So yeah, she'd probably be a bit like, it's horrible, but I'm sure she'd be all right with it.
Horrible spiders.
She's brave, she claims. So, but I've got to find something that's going to terrify her, haven't I? So there we go. That is Arachnophobia. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to our current patrons, including John Crinnan, Ben Scaife, Stephen Christopher, Toby Miller, Scott Rigby, Lane Spencer, Ollie Child, Leslie Carlo, Julia Bilgren, Nick Spill, Troy Bursch, Rosalind Harnias, and Pazuzu. Thanks to Taj Easton for hosting. Thanks for Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or a review. Here's something interesting. In Search of Darkness documentary makers on Twitter and Instagram recently put out a tweet saying Hey, what horror podcast should we listen to? A handful of people have said the Horror Hangout podcast. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, if you follow In Search of Darkness, 80s Horror Doc, I think it is on Twitter or Instagram, just go and give them a nudge, give them a message. Who knows? Maybe for the next version of the documentary, which I think is going to be like the 91 to 94, maybe they want some right horror dudes to give their
I'll
opinions.
tell you what, Ben,
on...
I have recallable memories from the 90s. We could be talking Arachnophobia on there. Probably stay
We
on
could.
topic more, but you know what? They edit more when you make documentaries. We're fine.
That's true. We could just ramble for a few hours and then they just take the 14-second
We're
snippet of what
keeping
we
editors
said.
employed. You're welcome.
You're welcome. So yeah. Also, we are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Next week we're doing 28 Weeks Later, a sequel that we've sort of talked about doing for quite a while. But 28 Days Later recently turned 20. I think it's like 21. I think it's like 21 years old for the UK, but it came out in the US like 20 years ago. And I thought 20 was a nice round number, so let's go and do the
do that.
sequel. Because a lot of people like the sequel. I quite like the sequel.
Yeah, I've only seen the once, I think, you know. Looking forward to watching it
Have
again.
you?
Yeah.
Oh wow, Jeremy Renner himself, isn't it?
Didn't even remember that. All right. That sounds
Exciting.
very good. I'm looking forward to it. And I think we should probably close today, bearing in mind we did it in his honor. So once again, rest in peace, Julian Sands, a character actor that will live on in our memories. What a
Yeah,
what a
go
what
and
a
watch.
performance.
Yeah, go watch this. Go and watch Warlock. He's
Yeah,
in the second one as
this
well, isn't
Warlock. I've not seen Warlock 2. Maybe I'll find
he?
out.
Yeah,
But yeah, he's
check it
good
out.
in Warlock as a villainous role. This is his standout for me. If you can find it, I'm not sure what the distribution deal is with Ghost of Monday. If you want to see him something in later in his career, go and check him out there. But a fabulous character actor who it's a little bit sad we didn't see in more of the films. I think he has a good vibe for this type of role.
Yeah, definitely. There we go. Thanks, Andy, for being a right horror dude, and I'll see you and I'll see everybody else next week.
Thanks, Ben. Goodbye, everybody. Check for spiders.
Check for spiders everywhere. See you later.
Bye for now. Check your helmets.